1, and we're live. You're tuning into the Cosmic Children Podcast. I'm your host, Kevin, and today I have a really special individual in the studio with me. I have Tim de Cotta.
Hello.
Tim,
thanks for having me.
Could you please introduce yourself and describe what you do?
Okay, my name is Tim de Cotta. I'm actually a local musician, songwriter, bassist, producer as well. And for the last, I think now it's 2023, right? Since 2015, so almost coming to 8 years, I've been running a couple of different projects on my own. Companies that do events, programming, arts and music curation, like for different brands and national agencies and stuff. So that was how I started going into things a bit more full-time. And then after that, about maybe 3 or 4 years ago, I started another company after closing down the first one. And it's called Warrior Productions. It's what I do, everything else that has come along the years through, like music production, audio, soundscape, trails, any kind of audio production work, as well as the events that I used to do. Yeah.
So more than just a handful of things.
Yeah. Gotta pay the bills.
Gotcha. So in thinking of how to start this conversation, because you do such a wide array of things, so let's kickstart the conversation with an easy question. Okay?
Yeah.
What is music to you?
Well,
easy question.
Yeah, very easy.
Yeah.
Music is life. Music is my starting point, I guess. Music is what I go back to also at the end of the day. Music always is there for me. And it teaches me everything that I need to learn. I've been listening, of course, since I was a kid. But getting into playing and getting into creating and everything, I always find new ways to think about things. New ways to understand myself, new ways to understand people, the world, everything. So yeah, music is really life for me. I start everything, even if it's non-music related, from a point of making sense through music or remembering how I made sense through music years ago. Yeah. Yeah.
Do you remember a point in your journey of experiencing music that there was this one particular artist or a particular song that kind of just impacted you or changed things for you?
Oh, so many.
So many. Okay.
So many. I think, I think how I listened was how changed what impacted me. So, what impacted me, sorry. So, I got cues from my family members. So my parents always have music on in the house. My dad's always playing the guitar and singing, and my mom is singing along, or they're just randomly dancing now and then when a nice song comes on. So that's how I started to associate music with being sort of this atmosphere that was associated with joy, relaxation, or just like being in the moment. So then I started listening to more and more of the types of music that they used to let me hear. And I have two older sisters, so they had their influences on me as well, because they were like, I think teens in the early 2000s, late 90s. Yeah. So I got like the best of old soul and pop music from the 60s and the 70s and the 80s. And then I got my sisters coming with hip hop and R&B from the 90s onwards. Yep. And that's how I started to like discover different types of music that really, really spoke to me. So I think jazz music was quite a big impact on my life when I was like 11, because my parents were like, oh, okay, we're going to this concert in the park called Jazz in the Park. Yep. Botanic Gardens. Yep. And I was like, jazz? I don't listen to what? It's old people music.
You
right?
want your hip hop, right?
Yeah, I want my R&B, hip hop. Yeah. And like all the stuff that I was listening to then. And then my sisters were in on it and they were like, come, just go, let's just go, you know, let's just see. And then I went there and that was the first time I watched like a jazz trio. It was Jeremy Montero, Red Holt, and LD Young on bass. Yep. And he was a double bassist and he was singing. And I was like, wow. So that was like a start for how I knew that could be done. Yep. So the first time watching jazz was a very exhilarating experience for me, because I didn't understand that you could be free like in your instrument and you could talk with it. And they were just like fooling around and seeing where the improvisation went. And they were just like, one song took 12 to 15 minutes. And I was like, wow, this is mind blowing. Yeah, this is like, they're exploring every single room in this house of a song, you know? So I was like, that opened my eyes to improvisation, to different the music that was outside the pop sphere of things. Yeah.
Was it difficult to find particular inspirations or to find, I guess, tracks for jazz when you mentioned it's outside of the pop sphere? Was it difficult to, I guess, dig for such music?
To be honest, not really. Because I went to ask my grandma about what she used to listen to, and then she also told me that my late grandfather, I never met him, but he passed away when my mom was like 16 or 10. No, 16. He used to be a jazz musician. So none of us saw or knew that he was this like player in the scene, and he used to like play the vibraphone and the piano, I think. Something like that should be. And then he had a government job in the day. So it's like that kind of like musicians today still.
A bit sad, but okay.
Yeah, it is. It is what it is, man.
Yeah.
So like that's when I realized, okay, some part of it is probably in my blood. Like I see my uncles and I watch them play the guitar, and I'm like, okay, yeah, all these jazz substitutions and these chords I never heard before. And then they're like, what is that? And I say, I don't know. It's like, you hear it, you play it. And I was like, okay.
You hear it, you play it. Oh, okay, wow.
So I started to tune into that as well. And then so they put me a lot of and my mom and my dad and just me actually going to so I'm a Christian Brothers school boy. So I was from St. Stephen's Primary School, and my parents were like, okay, you must go to a Catholic school. But the ideal choice for you is try and make it to SJI, because that is the that's the highest ranked Catholic school. You can get a good education and still be very Catholic. So, okay, but then the second choice is be St. Pat's lah.
Yeah. Oh dear.
Which I was like, yeah, okay, cool, because actually my dad is a St. Pat's boy. But my mom used to like all the SJI boys when she was growing up. So anyway, very TMI. But then so because I used to stay in Nepalese, which is like far out, right? Like, and then that's where I grew. That's my whole hood, my whole area is there. And then suddenly my school is in the middle of town. And then the only way to go back is to take 190 to Orchard MRT.
Okay.
And then take the east-west line all the way back to Tampines. So every time it was like 1.5 hours. So there were points where I would tell my mom or tell my dad, like, even though I finished school at like 2 o'clock, maybe just expect me at 5. I come home before sunset. And then they're like, okay, but don't do it so often. And I said, okay. So I'll go to Borders. And then, remember, so Borders actually had an entire music section that was like at the back, right? And it was huge. And every aisle had a disc player that you could sample the music, right? And then you just ask the staff, okay, I want to hear this. Can you please unwrap it for me? And I'll just put it in, and then I'll just listen to stuff. And I found all these funk compilations. So, excuse me, it was a nice bridge between me learning to really like enjoy jazz music and then understanding that the hip-hop music that I'm actually used to comes from a root of sampling that went from soul, and then which soul came from jazz. And I was like, oh my God, it's the fucking same thing. So that's how I started to find more and more stuff on top of the stuff that my parents or my cousins or actually mostly family members like threw at me, like Dinah Washington, Ella Fitzgerald, Louis Armstrong. And I just dug a hole from there and everything, and just found more. You just got stuff.
Deeper and deeper, I assume.
Yeah.
So are you gonna share next that you touched an instrument and you realized you were a prodigy at it, or how did that start? You were listening to a lot of music, you were getting a lot of inspiration from it. So how do you bridge the gap between being a consumer and being a musician and touching an instrument for the first time and doing that?
Okay, for me, so I got my first instrument, my whole family and my now in-laws and everything. Sorry, my sister's husbands, basically, they all put money together and got me a bass guitar. And then that was when I was 17. But when I was 13 or 14, that's when I found Jamiroquai.
What is that?
Jamiroquai is actually a band that's like an jazz band from the UK.
Okay.
And it was led by this guy who's quite iconic in the 90s and the noughties, who kind of created present day funk and soul.
Wow.
You know? So that was like the stuff that I was into, like Curtis Mayfield, James Brown, and everybody who was playing funk and everything. And then suddenly to have someone who is now in the scene who, or rather in the world, who was creating new funk music.
Yep.
And that kind of really like just took me off on a whole journey learning about like pocket, like bass and drum stuff. And because at first actually I wanted to learn how to play the drums, you know, but I had no access. We didn't have a drum set at home. Yep. And actually, my dad was quite sweet. I think on my 14th or my 15th birthday, he actually booked the studio at Eurasian Association. Mm-hmm. So there's actually a jamming studio on the top floor. I think at $30, $40 an hour or something. Yeah. And he booked it for 3 hours. And then there's a drum set there. And then he said, okay, just go and play. So I was like, oh, okay. I'm like starting to play music and everything. And I brought all my Jamiroquai CDs and everything. And I was putting it on my ears and like headphones like these. And then just trying to play along and everything. And I was like, oh, okay. I have some sense of rhythm, I thought lah. I wouldn't, if I go back now and watch myself doing it, I don't know what the fuck I was doing. Yeah. Probably it's like just sounding like, in my head I was probably sounding great. Yep. So anyway, that was my first like playing experience, which was quite easy-ish for me. But actually years before, my mom sent me for like a 4-week or 4-lesson classical guitar intro course when I was 12. And then I hated it.
You hated it? Why did you hate it?
Because I was like, it's so hard to play chords. Yep. My fingers are so small. I was 12. And then I was like, but I was really good at the picking stuff, like the plucking stuff. Yep. Little did I know that I enjoyed those movements and everything. I think there's a standard E minor or E major song called Romance d'Amour that everyone has to play as a classical student. The guitar. Okay. Look it up. It's probably anybody who knows how to play the guitar in Singapore would actually have played that song before at some point. Yep. So that was when I realized, there's some relation between being good at rhythm, like how I like the drums, but also having a melodic aspect to an instrument, which is the bass, where I get to play one note at a time. And the plucking shit that I used to like when I was in primary 6. Yep. And then when I was 17, I got this guitar. I was like, okay, there's a nice marriage of rhythm and notes, right? And then the bass is like portable. I don't have to have a fucking drum set in my house. And then neighbors won't complain. Yep. I can just put amp lower and everything. So then, because of listening so intensely to music from the time I was 13 till the time I got my bass, I started like transcribing songs without knowing what transcribing meant.
How would you do that?
I just put the CDs on the CD player in the living room, and I brought my bass amp out. Yep. And then I told my parents, my sisters were like in uni and everything, so they weren't home as much. But I thought I'm gonna play bass before dinner, okay? Like, don't mind the sound. Like, so I spent like 5 to 7 or 6 to 8 just playing each song and isolating the bass guitar in all these songs. Yep. And slowly learning it as I press and play and pause until I get it. Yep. And then I'll try the whole song. Yep. So I didn't know that I was doing this like for like 5 different Jamiroquai albums. Yeah. And then I moved on to all the old compilation albums of funk and soul that I bought from Borders before. Yep. And I was like, hey, I can play all these songs. But I still didn't know that I could play till I think that there was a point where I hyper-fixated on a certain album of Jamiroquai, and I just kept playing it in my room. And my parents' friends would come over, / my sister's friends would come over, and I always come out and talk to them. I'm normally quite sociable, but normally I'll just come out, talk to them, have dinner with them, and say, okay, bye. And I'll go into my room. Yep. And I'll just like play it full blast, and I'll play the bass and everything. And then at one point, I think my sister's then boyfriend, now husband, knocked the door, and he came in and he's like, dude, like, that was you playing. I was like, yeah. I was like, really? Then I started to play again. Hey, show me. Then I played the song, and he was like, you can play lah.
Well, so props to that individual. Recognizing.
I can play. Wow. Yep. Yeah. So I mean, then I knew, okay, because I have this skill set. I'm good at it, and I like being good at the fun stuff that I do. Yep. But at that time, I was just focused on football. I played for school, and so I was always playing football. Yep. And then bass was an after football kind of thing before I settled down for the night. Yep. You know, and then so fast forward a few years later, after NS and everything. Actually, during NS, towards the end of NS, all my peers and everything were like, "Hey, what are you gonna do? 6 months and everything. You have to wait for," because I got into NTU. So there was like a waiting period of like 6 to 8 months before we started school. Yep. And then, what are you going to do? Find a job and everything? Yeah, I find a part-time job and everything. And then actually, a couple of us thinking of setting up a band. I said, do you want to play? And I said, yeah, I don't mind. I play bass. And then, we need a bass player. So then we started practicing like once or twice. And then we called the band Music Incorporated.
Oh, God.
So
Yikes,
in short, Music Inc.
Yeah.
It's like, wow. We thought we were like, so freaking cool. You know? Jesus Christ. So our first gig was at Ben and Jerry's at Cathay. And I think there were a lot of like they used to do this programming. No, and actually not many friends and friends fans lah. No cute girls came at that time for me. Anyway, wow, double layered meaning. Anyway, so Ben Jerry's used to have like this open slot for bands. Like if you wanted to play, you can just sign yourself up. They'll pay you a free ice cream. But now I look back like, wow, damn exploiting. Fucking hell. It's like, after you play a 40-minute or 30-minute set and then, choose a single scoop that you would like.
Not even a double.
Not even a fucking double or like a waffle shit or whatever shit they had, right? So, so that was my first gig with a band. And then instead of playing all the funk and soul stuff, I was like playing like Snow Patrol and all that kind of, because that was easy and it was like ding, 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 4-chord songs. And then I could like my lead singer was like, can you harmonize? And so I had to fucking sing and play the bass at the same time. So that's literally how it started. My very first gig already, I was somewhat playing and singing at the same time. So it was quite normal to me. I didn't know that all this shit later on would become like something difficult, you know? So then we just progressed from there. Life happened. I went to university. Then I met Kevin Lester. Yeah, so he was actually dating my cousin last time. Then he used to rap and everything, and then he used to, and at Sunday gatherings, being a Eurasian family, all of us would gather, and then we would jam and everything, and then he would be like, you can play the bass, huh? And I said, I can play the bass. So a lot from that point in my life, when I was 17 onwards, people were telling me, you can play, you can play, you can play. I can play. Then like, if more people say I can play, then maybe really I can play lah.
I like the confidence.
By deduction, right? Like a sample size of blah 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 means probably is true. If sample size was like 1, then maybe not. But so he was like, I'm thinking of setting up a live hip-hop act. And I was like, please. Like, you know, I've been playing in this other band, my
Music
band,
Inc.
Music Inc. Yeah. And we play like John Mayer stuff, Snow Patrol stuff. And I was like, I don't play any funk and soul. So like, hip-hop is like, dude, is like, fuck, I've been writing raps for forever, for fun and everything. And me and my sisters memorize like every Salt and Pepper song and everything. So like, go for it lah, let's go. Then he got a couple of band that like, other members, and the members got members, and then it came all the way back to the start, and then we started our band called Six back in the day. So then our first gig was at Suntec City. It was an NUSS club alumni dinner, and then we had a set of 2 sets of half an hour, 2 sets of 45 minutes, I can't remember. And we were playing like R&B soul covers, neo, hip-hop, Kanye West, Black Eyed Peas, that kind of stuff. And we were like, okay, we're quite okay, we're quite good as a band. So then we kept rehearsing. We got a couple gigs. I think second or third gig, we were at the Esplanade. And then at the Esplanade, some people from KL were there. And there was this, oh my God, I forgot the name of the festival. Sunburst, KL. Where like people like, it's like really the ramp up was damn fast. It's like from that NUSS rooftop gig to Esplanade and then to Sunburst in KL, where like people like NERD, Korn, Erykah Badu, they were playing, and we were like, what the fuck? This is our 4th gig. Okay. So we like fucking rehearse, and then we went up and we got horn players just for that gig and everything. So then that's how like 6 became actually 9 people, because actually started from 6, and then we had a percussionist, and then we just moved on from there, and we started writing original music while I was in university, and we were performing all the time that I was in school, like the 4 years. And on top of that, I also was like playing bass or singing at different pubs around the East Coast and everything. So I'll travel all the way from Jalan Bahar all the way to East Coast, play a gig, earn maybe $175, and then back. Spend like $30 on cab to go back. But still, it's like, you know, at least I got some money for the week. So then that's how things got a bit like more and more professional. Yeah. But
so I'm curious to know, was there any formal music education? Like, did you eventually go for like a class or go for some formal education as to, this is how you actually play the bass, or is it all just through sessioning yourself, learning through osmosis from other people? Yeah.
Most of it was trial and error by myself, relying on my ear. Then I realized over the years, actually my ear is actually what is pulling me through a lot of things.
Interesting.
Yeah.
What do you mean by relying on your ear?
Like knowing where the notes lie, knowing what notes they are, transcribing the notes exactly. And that was a skill that I developed in 17 without knowing what I was doing.
Yep.
But later on in life, like if I had to, when I started sessioning for people and I started playing for like, for Inch or Ling Kai, for all these other acts, and then they were like, can you go and learn the songs and everything? Do you need charts? And then what the fuck are charts?
Like the Tauge.
Yeah, Tauge, or even chord lead sheet with the E minor times 4, but whatever, right? And I was like, I just learned by listening to the song. And I said, then I was like, do you have demos and everything? And yeah, I will send you the demos. So I'll listen how I used to listen, and I would learn and transcribe the bass parts, and I would play it exactly as they gave me, and then change it along the way if they want any changes. But that's what pulled me through a lot of things. But when I got more and more deep into maybe 2 or 3 years into the band, into 6, and we were like playing bigger gigs, and our drummer got replaced by quite a good drummer at the time. His name is Joseph Salim. He's from Jack and Ray and everything. So he started playing with us and everything, and his chops were like miles high and everything. So I had to keep up with all that kind of shit, all the subdivisions, all the different small fast licks and everything. And he said, okay, you need to go for some lessons. Like, and I was like, oh, okay. I was like a bit like, young 20
ego.
Like a bit bruised, but like, okay, this guy, I cannot beat him on the drums with what I do on the bass. Like, okay, I'll take his advice for it. And I went to, and we will always be watching music and blue jazz and everything. And then there was this great bassist that used to play in Mud Nor, and his name is Casey Subramaniam. And he is freaking talented. His bass tone is amazing. He plays guitar so well, and he sings at the same time.
Wow, though. That's so threat.
Yeah, and he's playing like complicated shit. It's not like ding ding ding. Like it's like ding ding and he's singing at the same time.
Yep.
And I always go up to him and say, "Wow, that was great. Can I buy you a drink?" Or blah blah blah. And eventually, they started to know that we would come and watch them, but I don't think they knew that we were in a band and everything. But I asked him, "Can I have some lessons?" Give me a rate, and teach me like maybe 4 to 8 lessons. And then that's exactly what I did. And then he helped me think about the bass, like the frets and everything very differently, because I didn't have any formal training in any sort of music in my life. It's just ear and play. That's it. So he taught me a couple of things. He taught me how to think about scales and the bass and everything. And then it just opened up my mind, and I started to play stuff, and I started to hear more stuff, and I started to pick up stuff a lot faster, which really helped when I was like gigging very busily towards the end of my uni life. Where I had to learn songs for this artist, this artist, and then at this residency at this pub, I have to learn the 30 songs by next week, and blah blah blah. And so it's like really like applying my mind to it, and then all the new things that I've learned. So I kind of got cleaned up a little bit over my bass playing career. If you call it a career.
It's not a career.
Money-wise in Singapore.
Okay. Different conversation later.
I only got lessons from 2 people. So it was Casey Subramaniam, and the other guy was Christy Smith. So Christy Smith is actually a lecturer in LaSalle. And he used to play blue jazz as well. And he's from Chicago. His daughter just released an EP in Singapore and America. Her name is Zora Smith. So anyway, might be familiar. You might have seen. She's mixed local and African American. Very, very cool. Then he taught me a couple more things over a few more lessons, because he literally came up to me and said, "Yo, Tim, I gotta tell you something, man. I gotta teach you some shit. You'll be playing these." He's like half drunk half the time, And he forgets my name. Hey, what's your name again? Hey, yo, yeah, you, man. Yo, you're a badass motherfucker. And then I would meet him, and then we would just spend like the whole afternoon together, and he's teaching me all this small, stupid shit. And he's like really being as patient as he can, because I'm not getting anything, but I'm slowly learning.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, in terms of teachers, the two of them really progressed me to a different level, to a level that I knew was around that corner, but I didn't know how to get to.
Yep.
Yeah, so that really helped. That's as much as a formal education in my instrument that I ever got.
Yep. Do you feel like it's like a place and a time kind of thing? Like if, let's say, like opportunities to learn, let's say the bass were given to you maybe at like 15, 16, you might not be in the right frame of mind to even accept it, to even do it.
Half. I think I was more motivated when I knew I had to learn something and I knew that I was stuck or I was plateauing. So that was the push that was needed to help me move on as a bass player. But I also regret not being able to know that was an avenue when I was 17. Because when I was 17, my fingers were moldable, my mind was fresh, and I was playing so fast, and I was playing so much shit, right?
Yep.
So if you taught me all of that back then, I would have gotten a lot better, I think.
Yep.
Yeah, but it's just one of those things.
Yep.
Yeah, it happens for a reason.
Yep.
Yeah, but it's the hindsight 2020.
Hindsight 2020. So you mentioned plateauing. Could you go into that feeling? What do you mean by plateauing? What were you noticing that you realized, okay, I really have to find some other way to like change up what I'm playing, to switch it up?
I think for me, being a younger musician, the ego is the biggest indicator of when you're plateauing versus and at the same time always the biggest hindrance.
Interesting.
You don't want to like admit that you can't do something, but your ego knows that you can't do something, so you would avoid it. And so thankfully I had like good bandmates and everything around me. Kelvin Ang, Joseph Salim, all of them were telling me, okay, Timmy, you need to go for lessons, or you need to, like, there are things that we are trying to play that you are not hitting all the time, you know? So they were very honest with me. And even though my ego was quite bruised at the time, I was also like, yeah, actually, you know what? Thanks for telling me. Yeah, okay, fuck, I have to go for lessons. You know, I have to unlock it, because I also can hear, trusting my ear, that I can't do these things. You know, the things that I want to do in my head also are not coming out.
Yep.
So yeah, it's just those were the different points. There were points There were points for a lot of different areas of me as a person, as an artist, that you find yourself, oh, okay, too much in your comfort zone already. Things are well and good, but something is a bit off, you know? Like there's some oversight somewhere because you're losing interest because you're not pushing yourself, or like you're doing something a bit wrong because you can't see something that other people can see that is affecting you in a certain way, you know? So so those were the points that I will consider plateaus which always takes an outside eye, or the luxury of leaning back and relaxing and like reviewing, which half the time we don't really have time for. Yeah. So,
but I can imagine it might be quite difficult to even take a macro look and to be, I guess, objective and honest with yourself. Yeah. To know like, I really can't do this. I have to find someone who can teach me. Yeah. To be just straight with yourself.
Yeah. And I think it's harder the older I get also, because, you know, things are so settled. And then I think as not just as musicians, but as humans, we get used to patterns and everything about how we do things and what comes back and everything. So we forget to learn. We forget to try something new. But there's a lot of fear and there's a lot of real responsibility that we can't avoid you know. I can't suddenly like choose to be an astronaut right now, you know, and spend thousands on education and certification and time when I have like a household to look after, you know. So there's a lot of different factors at play but yeah, I feel that it gets a bit harder. It gets a bit harder to check yourself, to call yourself out. Yeah, but I hope it's still happening. I hope so.
Yeah. So to follow up that particular point, how do you at this point, I guess, challenge yourself to play outside of your comfort zone, or to even recognize what is your comfort zone in the first place? Because I think that is one of the marks of I guess, someone who is mature enough as a creative to know that, hey, I always do things like this, and to, I guess, consciously try to do things differently.
Yeah. I think a lot of how I used to learn things back in the day was to not say no, which then turned very toxic because I used to get burnt out from not saying no. So I used to get more decisive with my commitments and how much I would push myself in my maybe the last 8 years or so. But I think the main thing is to always try to see some potential, like you've been used to a certain way or a certain avenue or a certain template of doing things creatively. That you should, of course, take that macro look out of yourself and say, oh, actually, these are things that I could do, but I've never tried. So, and then at the same time, line them up with the opportunities that might come. Like, for example, I'm now producing a couple of artists, and I produced an artist last year who put out a folk album, and I don't listen to folk music, so that was a push. That I was like, okay, there needs to be a way for me to learn how to bring out the best in this album that this artist is trusting me to do when I don't totally do the genre at all. Then I realized, there's different ways to treat music. There's different ways to think about the voice. There's different ways to think about playing an instrument. There's different charms in different types of recording or different types of songwriting that I've never like paid any mind to. So that was really a big kick in the butt. And then, of course, it started a whole process of me voraciously listening to folk artists and everything, and then trying to keep my interest levels up also at the same time, because I'm so interested in jazz and everything. And then you ask me to do something like folk, it really takes a huge amount of effort to not discard it, to give it a chance. And then I started to find different things in it that I liked and everything. I was like, okay, now I'm starting to understand where I can pursue an interest in these new facets of my artistic brain that I never used, or I rather chose not to use. Then after that, fast forward, I did a second release with this artist. It hasn't been released yet, but we finished the second EP, second album. And then I'm taking on an EDM artist who I'm
very different.
Far out, and then I'm learning about technical production stuff and like drops and sidechain compression and all the. It's it has to be like this, it has to sound like that. And then in my mind I was like, it just has to be fucking loud and borderline bursting my speakers. Then she will be like, wow, that's great. And it's okay. So new things that at some points I'll be like, oh my god, what am I doing? This is totally not in my forte. What if I let them down and everything? But then that adds that stake, where after saying yes to something totally new, now I have to commit to it. And now, even though my ego said yes, my whole being has to follow up with that, because my ego is also there saying, now you're responsible for this new shit that you never did before, but you better fucking make it great. So that's kind of how I try to get through some plateaus. But that's just musically. Other stuff in my life, don't know yet. Maybe.
Don't know yet. So I'm curious to know, you as a producer and you as a musician, do you look at the piece of music or the genre of music differently? How do you look at it? Because you as a songwriter, as a composer, and you as a producer, I would assume you have to pick out different things and accentuate different things as well. Yes. What are these things?
So as a producer, it's more about listening to people. As an artist, it's just about going with your gut and your feeling, right? When I'm creating something for myself, there's no limits. There's no this can't be done. This is not, it's like anything goes. But as a producer, I need to understand a person, like the person behind that music. So let's say if I'm producing for this rap artist, I need to understand, does he or she like mumble rap, trap music, or do they like old school stuff? Do they like boom bap? Do they like whatever and then I need to understand where they are coming from in terms of how they are an artist. What makes them tick? Well, I said thick, but what makes them tick?
I'm curious to know, why is that understanding important?
Because then I can work I'm trying to use big words for
you are,
here. So I can work as their brain.
Gotcha. Yeah. Okay.
You know? So I can create stuff that they would like, and it would shorten the process of like screening the stuff that they don't. You know, I can immediately make a batch of beats or a batch of songs that they will immediately like.
Yep.
But maybe if I didn't know that, then I wouldn't know how to even begin to start up that that path lah. So getting to know them, and it becomes very personal because the way I like to do things is I need to know where you are mentally also. Like,
interesting.
You know, yeah, like it really comes out in the music. I need to know if you're facing yourself or the problems that are there, how aware are you about the things that are going on with you and your life, and how open are you like to share them with me? Because for me, the more you share with me, the better I can produce you.
Interesting. Very interesting. Yeah.
Yeah. Because for me, like I need the most important thing is like relationships, like with people. Because I feel once you have a good relationship, you understand them, you just naturally I would just naturally create music that is them.
Yeah.
You know, even though there are parts of me that are still me, but with that relationship there, they will also understand the back and forth of things, and they will accept, okay, this is a musical expression of this certain part of Tim's character that I like. You know, because we are close, and so I would accept that as well. So it's very important, these kind of things, you know. So it's a bit I would say challenging at first if the artist isn't very open or isn't very sure, or doesn't really have an idea or a rough path about what they want to do. Then it makes me also not be very sure about what to produce, and I'll like maybe make like beats that just hit and miss and everything. So it takes a longer time lah. Yeah. So it's very collaborative. Like as a producer, you are a co-creator, and you have to serve. You can't be like, this is me as a producer. This is how I make things. You follow me this way. And no lah. They ask you to. They are trusting you with their music, so you might as well just let everything go and serve it. Yeah.
Would you say it's like a co-creation of like the vision of the music, or because it sounds like you have to talk with the artist, you have to have a lot of conversations with the artist, you have to know where the artist is and what they want to do with it. A little bit like therapy. So what I'm curious to know is, because I'm sure you as Tim de Cotta, as the musician, and you as the producer, you have very wildly different visions of what the music should be like and everything like that. So I'm curious to know, how do you balance, I guess, your own artistic ideas as the producer with the vision that the musician might have, whether they see it or don't see it? Yeah. I think
there's also a very technical side to production, and mixing and mastering and knowing the instruments and how they sound in a song. So, and that's what I like to do as well. So thank God I can divorce myself from the creative decisions that I might not make as an artist, and still focus on the technical side of their music. So like, even though if it's maybe this particular song by this artist isn't a song that I would write, or isn't a song that I particularly like or gravitate to, if I'm trusted with that work, I will make the drums sound great. I will make the key. So I focus on those parts of everything. And then I might suggest, okay, maybe this lyric is a bit weird. It's a bit offensive or a bit misogynistic or whatever. And then your arrangement here is a bit too cheesy. Maybe we can make it a bit more tasty. Maybe we can add some live snare instead of that. So it's like just pushing it a little bit, but at the same time focusing on what pleases me as well in terms of the sound and production of things. You know, I might not necessarily like the music, but I can help make the music sound good. Yeah, from a production standpoint. And that makes me happy too. So I can divorce myself from a bit of that lah. So if that's the case lah.
So I'm curious to know, what in in the setting of a band, you have various instruments.
Yeah.
I'm curious to know, what do you think is great about the various instruments? Let's say the guitar, the bass, the drums, the keys, the synth. What roles do these instruments play?
I mean, every different instrument is like a different texture, a different color, a different layer, and it dictates how you would perform a song vocally as well. So I feel, and also the genres, you know. So different genres use different things. Like folk music uses a lot of acoustic guitar. R&B uses a lot of synths and pads and beats and bass and everything. Pop music is just a bit more of the referring popular tones in the music that is famous around you and everything. And arrangements like 4 bars to the chorus or like drops in EDM and everything. So I guess every instrument and how you play it creates like a palette of what you want to paint. You know, so that's the interesting thing about choosing what you want in a song. You know, you literally can paint a whole scene of what you're trying to say through music, which is freaking amazing because it's like an audio painting, you know? So if I play my guitar with delay, it will sound like I'm underwater or in space or whatever, you know? And if my song is about space, then that's great. You know? So like, and I guess over the years, knowing how all the different instruments are played and watching all my fellow musicians play them and seeing what an instrument can create in the hands of different people is really mind-boggling. It's like it there is no limit lah. You know, everyone will play a single note, like even on the same instrument differently.
Oh, that's interesting.
Yeah, because you have bigger fingers or smaller fingers or sweaty palms or long fingernails, or you know, or that day you're just tired, or you were angry, or you're super happy, or you are drunk. I don't know. You know, like it every different note played by a different person is different, and also every same note played by the same person at a different time is also different. You know, so that's how organic like music can be. You know, no two same takes of a riff of a guitar in a song are the same. You know, so if I'm playing a different a 4-bar progression, a 4-chord progression over 16 bars on my bass, the first take, the second take, is all going to be different. Yeah. So that creates different colors. Then sometimes once you see these colors come out, you might be inspired to play in a different way. And then that's how the different instruments tend to talk to each other. It's never ending lah. The permutations are just like endless. Yeah. So that's what's fun about them.
Going to you as an artist and you as a musician, I'm curious to know, how has your process of creating music, how has it changed across your journey?
I think because with my years maturing over the years, listening to different things, knowing what I like, taking a lot faster to get to what I like, has informed me how to write songs already. Like before, or while I'm writing a song, I know, this is the bass tone that I want. This is the kind of groove or the kind of beats that I want. This is the kind of snare that I'm looking for. This is the kind of hi-hat. This is the kind of synth playing. This is who I want to play synths for me. Blah, blah, blah.
Interesting.
Yeah, you know, so it's like knowing the community and knowing everyone around and just like being in awe of all their talent. It's quite nice to have like this greater database of abilities and ideas and expressions to pull out from. So I think last time it was a bit harder because I didn't have access so much in that way, you know. But getting to where I'm at now, I know like so many people in the scene, and they have so many friends along the way, so many gigs under our belts and everything, and listen to so much music since the time I was like a child till now. It's very fast to pick out like an idea or a sample or a reference that I can then recreate very fast also, thanks to technology these days. Because now I work out of my house. It's like, it's a home studio. It's not even a full studio. It's like basically a desk in the living room with a good sound system.
You made it sound really cool. You say it's a desk. Okay.
It is cool. It is cool.
It is cool.
It's too cool. It's very fine. But I can get like really legit clean, studio quality music from that space.
Incredible.
You know? And that's just changed the whole game for me. And that's why I'm like taking a lot more production work these days.
Yep.
And everything is done literally from where my desk.
Yep.
So in that sense, now everything is accessible.
Yep.
Everything is so much easier to get. If it's not, I just go online, find a database, find a Dropbox, pay for a sample, or maybe get samples from my friends who already have beat packs and everything.
Yep.
Isolate a certain kick that I want from a 60s song, you know, find a reference, find out where I can find this kick, or emulate it, or make it sound the same, all on my freaking computer, and then create that song. You know, it all can just be done start to finish within my body, my brain and everything, and then how it comes out. You know, last time it was a bit more difficult. I had to get people to come in to play and everything. I mean, it's always more fun when people play. But if I had to, now I can do everything by myself. Yeah, which is really cool.
Yep.
Yeah.
Are you always chasing like musical ideas or like a certain tone that you have in your head and you're trying to recreate it in physical reality? Or how does it work? Like, does it usually have, you heard something or you remembered something from before, you're trying to recreate it and you're just fumbling your way in the darkness and you're just meandering through until you find like something that you really like? Could you just put that particular process into your words?
Sometimes it's easy, sometimes it's hard.
Okay.
And it also depends how fast you can get to putting it down for me.
What do you mean by that?
Like if I hear something and I'm near my gear, I can immediately open up a session on a computer and then find. But at the same time, sometimes you might get lost in things. So I might have a really great idea in the shower and like a very detailed idea of tones and of chord progression.
In the shower?
In the shower.
Okay.
Always, you know. Okay. Always, or taking a shit.
Yeah. No gear in the toilet, right?
Sorry?
No gear in the toilet.
No gear in the toilet, yeah. I might electrocute myself and die.
Yeah.
So I'll immediately try and come out and create something. And it depends where I'm at. Like let's say if I've been constantly producing for the whole week, maybe if I find the idea in the toilet, immediately I come out, I can like as fast as I can lay it down because it's really at the ends, like the tips of my fingers, right? But let's say if I'm on a holiday, like maybe a month or 2 months, and I have music in my head, and it's not so easy to get it down, then that's how the idea fades or it changes. And then when I get access to these to my gear, it might come out totally different from what's in my head. But I tend not to be beat myself so hard upon it because I just like whatever comes out, come out. If I hit a roadblock in the process of putting down that beat, I'll just stop, I'll save it and come back to it. Yeah, and maybe it's not meant to come out today, you know. So I've learned to do that as well. I've learned to if it's there and if I'm in the right place and if it's accessible, I'll try and get it done. If it's not, and if I really like it, I'll just like blah, 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 into a voice memo. Okay. And record it and then come back to it another day. Yeah. I'm not so hard up on it anymore. Last time I used to be like, oh, fuck, I missed such a fucking good song because I didn't get to the computer in time. Then when I came to the computer, I forgot everything, or I got distracted by the bass tone on this program that crashed, or and I lost the rest of the idea, you know? Yeah. So now I don't really bother so much about that anymore. Because I'm like, then maybe it's for someone else.
Interesting.
Yeah.
So is there like a ranking, or do you view, let's say, samples and instruments purely on the digital differently than actual instruments? Do they sound differently? Do they accomplish different purposes in like an arrangement?
Okay, so it's always about, I guess, time and efficiency, and a mood and an emotion. So scarily enough, these days, I think you can find anything that sounds real online. You know, you can create anything through MIDI, through your keyboard. Like I can create a string arrangement and it sounds like an orchestra, but it's really just my fingers. You know, it's like the fuck. It's like things are amazing these days. But in terms of getting that idea down or getting a human take of a certain like instrument, I always like to call like my friends, you know, like I always like to call Nasty Keys, come and play keys, and like, can you just put this down? And then it takes him like fucking 30 seconds versus me taking like half a day. You know?
Wow.
Yeah. So the proficiency in instrument is something that cannot really be beat, I feel. Though it can be emulated very well with time.
Yep.
Yeah. So it depends lah. If you got time, then do it yourself. And if that so happens to pave the way for you to understand how to do it faster and faster and faster, then good for you, you know? Yep. But for me, I always feel like in terms of drum playing especially, there's a certain air that is it's quite you can recreate it digitally, but there are certain things that organically will happen super randomly that a computer has a limit to, you know. Yeah, so what I would do if I really want to get a really organic feeling take of a drum, and I have no time to get my drummer in a studio and record, I would create like a drum rack, like in a session on Ableton or wherever, and I'll play it. You know, I'll play it with my fingers and everything. The easier way is to always find a drum loop and you just loop it, right? Yep. But to organically create something, you have to try and play it through. So I would try and do that, you know, and it sounds close to the real thing, but I would say it still isn't, you know. But in the music that I do is possible, you know. It's hip hop, R&B, it's all loops. Yep. It's all that kind of vibe. Yep. And if anything sounds a bit more organic, it's a blessing. Yep. You know? Yeah. So yeah, it's difficult. These days, I don't know, man. I think if you actually put me through an A/B test on something organic,
you can't tell.
Yeah, I probably can't tell. Yep. Things are freaking amazing these days, you know, like fuck, man, AI is just
it's coming.
It's already been here. Yeah. But now it's like fucking human. Like it's.
Have you seen the AI generated audio podcast? Indistinguishable, yo. It's crazy. Yeah. I think they fed it through like a program and they did like a Joe Rogan and Steve Jobs. Yeah. Like a 27-minute segment. Yeah. Scary.
I should go and listen to it.
Fucking scary. So you mentioned that when you have an idea, you try to jot it down and everything. And do these musical ideas, do they always turn into songs? Or do you just have like a backlog? And when you want to put together like an album, you are synthesizing all these different things and trying new things?
Both, actually. Yeah. So my recent album in November last year, I think the oldest song on it is actually Ride, which is 12 years old. Wow. It was supposed to make the cut for the first album, but it didn't fit the vibe and the narrative. I've just been performing it live forever. And then I released it on the album and everyone's like, why you release the song again? That's like, nah, I never released it.
You've just been playing it.
Yeah, and then you're like, oh shit, yeah. It's like, you've always been asking us to sing along to this song while you're playing live, but it's just never made the cut for anything.
Yep. So why this recent album then? Did it just the stars aligned and it fit?
Yeah. It fit a lot better. Because the first album that I did, The Warrior, was very angsty. It's very socially conscious, and I think I just trying to just vent. You know? Yeah. Now I look back, I just cringe. But I mean, it has its merits. Sure. Like, it served its purpose. Yep. I'm not like there anymore. I mean, there's a lot of things that I still believe about that album, because it basically talks about larger Singapore and everything, and how we live as we do in our minds in this mental trap capacity. Yep. But after a while, I was like, fuck lah. You think about all these things also, it's just gonna make it toxic, and I'm gonna feel at the end of the day, I'm the one who's gonna be the most depressed and the most like set back by all this, because as I'm writing these lyrics, I'm like enlightening myself about how fucked up things are. Yep. And I was like, no, I don't want to go there again. So I was like, okay, second album is just love songs. That's it. So that was how I put that limit in my head. I was like, you know what? No, fuck it. This second album is fun. I'm gonna enjoy it. And it's going to be stupid love songs and everything about love and everything to do about my experiences and maybe some other people's experiences of it, blah, blah, blah. So that's where that particular song then managed to refit into the narrative, because that was about me, my now wife. That's how we used to start going out, you know. So that song was about that. Yeah, borrowing my dad's car, which we scrapped already, but like acting like I can pick her up in the car and everything. So like that was what made that song have a debut in this recent album as well. Yeah, but on top of that, there's lots of new material so that I think a lot of artists go through this. So when they're putting out a new album, they will always look at the works that they've done that didn't make the cut for anything else. And if the stuff fits, great. But you always have to have something new. You always have to have, because interest levels are a very important part about how you express yourself, you know? Sometimes you might sing a really old song very well because you've sung it like 10,000 times, but the feeling or the newness or the actual rawness of it is gone because you forgot how it felt when you first wrote it, you know? And then new songs that just come out for the album, they're so raw and so fresh that it translates very well into what you want to say, what you want people to feel, etc. Yeah.
So you mentioned of the idea of newness and how one could, I guess, get very like used and comfortable singing the same song over and over.
Yeah.
How do you revitalize like a song like that you have sung so many times? How do you find new meaning in one of your old songs to revive it?
I don't know, man. I've been playing, actually most of my live set is half new, half old. The old stuff, funnily enough for me, playing stuff live that is older, I feel better about because I don't have to think. I can actually play. I can actually express. So in terms of being bored with it, playing with a band really helps.
How so?
Because you got other people who are adding stuff to them. You know how I was talking about how every time a different way, or the same song that you play on a new day is totally different. So having all my guys around and all of us in the studio just like goofing around and on the songs, and because all of us are bored of songs, we come up with something new and like, okay, put it okay, just go for it. So even though I'm singing the exact same lyrics and everything, I know something interesting is going to happen at this point because it was cooked up in rehearsal.
Yeah.
So we try and do that, and I try and be as open as possible to how people play my music, because I don't like to keep things the same, you know. So if you want to go for a solo this way, and most of the time, getting education from like listening to jazz music, like I would include a lot of solos and a lot of improvisational points for the players. I'm not a very good soloist myself, so I would let like them shine a little bit. And at the same time, while they're doing that, like we are moving together with this person leading you through your own song to an end point, and then you're like, oh, where's this gonna go? You know? Yeah. So that always keeps it fun. Yeah.
It sounds like there is like a surprise as well. Like you don't know where the individual is leading you, but you are just happy to follow along and let someone else take the lead.
Correct.
Even though it's your song.
Yeah.
Because I can imagine other scenarios where I think other artists might just be very pure about it. This idea of keeping the artist's intent, but basically how they envision it.
Yeah.
So I'm curious to know, what does the meaning of like keeping art pure, what does it mean?
For me, when I wrote that song, I was looking around at the scene and people who were like just ego tripping, who were doing it for reasons where I thought were not right, like for the attention, for the follows, for, you know. At the same time, me and my I guess immediate group of musicians, we were like trying to learn as much as we could about different things, about our instruments, about ourselves, about jazz, about how to write a good song, about different tones and everything. And then so I felt, and then there was a point where some shit happened also, like musically, the band broke up and everything. So I was also quite angry about how, and it was all because of the same reasons, like an ego trip, and then people thinking they can do things that they actually shouldn't do. And I started to get angry about all these things. So then I wrote Art Pure quite freshly, I think, after the band broke up. But also it was also at the time that I was really playing with a lot more musicians and learning a lot, like really very fast from live gigs and everything. And I was going through all those lessons and everything. So then I wrote this song about like, walao, like you don't have to try lah. You know, like if you keep it pure, you keep your art true to yourself, it will tell you what to do lah. Well, you don't have to do it for a special mention in some award thing here and there. You don't have to do it for people to come and follow you or like you and everything. It's just like at the end of the day, if you serve your art, it will serve you.
Yep.
Yeah, that's what I felt, and that's what the immediate close musician friends around me also, we were all like, yeah, like, okay lah, just focus on the product. Don't even think about looking good or like this social, like whatever shit you have to do, right? Like if your music fucking sucks, then you get the gig for what? Right?
Yeah.
At the end of the day, music is very exposing, or art is very exposing that way. You know, once you can promote yourself and you can market yourself to a certain point, but if you can't deliver when you are on stage, right, like your fall is almost as immediate as your rise, you know?
Yep.
So we were very afraid of that. So Art Pure is like, it's about that. Yeah, it's about, it's keeping it true. Which at the same time, I was also thinking about, like, as much as we are moving as musicians in Singapore and I'm getting more recognition also, like, I will not stop doing the things that I like to do. I will not stop meeting my friends, being my family, going down to a coffee shop for a day. You know, like I have to keep doing these things, even though it's a bit tempting that now I can, like, you know, go show up to this event, free invites for this, get free entry to a fucking whatever hip hop event, all that kind of shit. But I was like, that's not me lah. Yeah.
So I guess the word pure is multifaceted. It's not just about the art itself, but I guess you as an individual as well. Yeah. It's interesting because you had a particular sentence which you just mentioned, which is, I think when you serve the music looks after you, which is particularly poignant because music is different things to different people.
Yeah.
For those who don't play, for those who have never touched an instrument, they're just listening to music. Yeah. But I think for when I read that statement, it sounds as though you are you're elevating music or this idea of music to something like a muse. Like you are just looking up to it. And I guess serve is a very interesting word to use because most people would think that you as a musician, you are the conduit at which music comes from. But that's not the case, at least from your example. You're serving this thing. The music will show itself through you, which is very, very interesting.
It is. It is a concept that me and my friends have, I guess, talked about at length. Once the music is created, once it's out, it's no longer yours. Like it's really no longer yours already. You have to take care of it. You have to live up to what it is. You know, even though it came from you, you are not the owner of it. You're just like a channel. You know, like it came from somewhere. You can, I don't know. I feel like with any art, you know. If you allow yourself to be open to it and if you train yourself with the skills to execute it, like good art can flow through you. You know, it doesn't really come and stay in you. It's just if you're a vessel and you're a good enough vessel for that particular idea, it will come through you and you might get the recognition or the credit for it. But it's never that. Then that's I think a lot of artists deal with this. I think ego is a very huge part of who we are. No choice. Like
no choice.
You have on stage. I have to be Tim de Cotta. I have to put up this front of this person who writes good music and who plays the bass very well and is very confident and crowd engaging and everything. But actually inside I'm like fucking panicking and I'm like 10 more minutes. I can relax.
I couldn't tell.
But years and years of doing it, you know, you get certain patterns and everything. But I always knew that from, I guess, early experiences also in the scene and how people have held on to certain things and then how they have not lasted in that sense because they let it get the better of them or like they really disregarded people and their feelings because they thought they were the king of the world and every kind of thing. So seeing all of that happen in front of, like, they're just really like harsh reminders and harsh realities that tell you, oh, this is what is going to happen if you lose sight of what it actually is. You know, yes, you need your ego to push you on stage, to build you with confidence and to put on a good performance. But once that is done, yeah, that's it. So over the years, I trained myself to like let go once we are off stage or once the last note is played. But last time in like, I guess the first few gigs, we all used to say, oh, that was such a high. I can't wait to get back on stage again. What a freaking trip. Oh, it's top of the world. It's like nothing else. And then I was like, oh shit, this is all ego.
Interesting.
It's all ego. Fuck. There's so many ways you can get the same feeling. Go and take a roller coaster. Whatever, it's the same.
Yep.
It's just that you control and you own this more because you are dictating that right.
Yep.
So then over the years, after a while, it's just like, people will always ask me, they all rehearse so much. How do you get on stage and everything? It's like, how do you plan that moment and how do you? And it's like we didn't. We just fucking let it happen.
Yep.
Because we don't care if we crash and burn. I mean, we do in that moment, but in the grander scheme of things, it will just happen and it's bound to happen. And if it happens, you can't do anything about it.
Yep.
So control is an illusion. Yeah.
I agree. So I'm curious to know, do you fear that one day the music ideas will just stop?
Actually, I don't think it will. It's like reading, or it's like I guess if you I don't know, man. I guess music, since for me it's a very mental, emotional thing.
Yep.
It won't run out, or my reservoir for it won't run out as easily as if like maybe I went into professional football, for example, where my body literally will
tell you,
yeah. Like I have to retire now at my age if I was playing professionally. I think music that way has a lot more of a runway. If I am still lucid at 86 or 87, of course I still can create. I can probably create a song, But at the same time, I guess it's a reflection on life and where I'm at, or where any artist is at, and how confident they are, how hard life hits them. Sometimes you never know what might happen that will just hit the music or the art or the love out of you.
Yep.
Like you really cannot tell.
Yep.
Once again, there's no control, there's no ego. Like your ego is just a fucking impermanent thing lah. Yeah, just like anything. So I would think that this music would never go away, but who knows?
Who knows?
Yeah. But I think as long as I'm of proper mental capacity and not forgetful or anything, it's quite easy for me. Like music, whether it's shit or good music, it depends lah. But to make music,
that's another conversation. Yeah. So to follow that up, I'm curious to know, has the process of creating music, has it been easier or getting more difficult? I ask because you have been doing this for so long.
Yeah.
And I believe you have explored so many different musical ideas.
Yeah.
Whatever that your mind has created. So I'm curious to know, has it been getting easier or more difficult? Because I can imagine you have been exploring these waters for so long.
Yeah.
And perhaps whatever you might have want to create now might have been created by you before. Yeah. Has it been getting easier or more difficult?
I think in terms of execution is much easier. In terms of getting an idea out, it's much easier, much faster. But at the same time, I guess my abilities are always very limited. Anyone's abilities have a limit, But at the same time, it's hard to see as a person that those limits, even though they are limits for you, other people still see that as you. Like no one can do what you can do in a certain way, whether it's difficult or easy or whatever. It's your own flavor to it. So like, I feel lately melodically I've been writing a lot of very similar shit. So I'm very consciously trying to like
deviate from
and it's weird because I'm like trying to do stuff that my brain doesn't naturally go to and everything. So it's tough in that way. It's easy to create things in the way that I do.
Yes.
But it's tough to learn how to break that. if that makes sense.
So it's still tough even to this day.
Yeah. I think so. Yeah. I mean, if you want to learn something new lah, I guess, or if you want to differentiate like from your previous relationships.
I was like, huh? Okay.
Releases.
Yep.
Then it definitely takes some research, some sitting back, maybe putting the music aside for a while, just enjoying your life or like experiencing your life and then coming back to it, you know? Yeah. It's like riding a bike or playing football. So it's like there's only a certain level that you can reach physically after like you just need rest, you know? Your brain needs a break to be able to process, to be able to like store things in a different way. And then when you create again, it's totally different. Yeah. So difficult and hard. Hard in the sense that to innovate or recreate myself is going to be fucking difficult.
Yeah.
But easy if people like what I do and they just want more, it's just like I can just churn, you know? Yeah.
This idea of taking a break or taking a pause with regards to your craft, did it come naturally to you? Or did you have to experience like total burnout? You don't even want to touch music and then you come back to it?
There was I don't think the not touching music thing happened when my burnout happened. But I definitely burnt out from just saying yes to so much shit. Like when I was like 28 or 27 or 28, around that period, I literally had to cancel my whole month of gigs because I was physically unable to move. Because there was a point where I think I sprained my back because I was exhausted, and it was a very simple movement of like climbing the stairs or like just turning the staircase going up in a U-turn. And then I was in excruciating pain, and I had to go back home, and I told when I was still living with my folks, I was like, okay, I need to go to the doctor. I went to the doctor, and the doctor was like, there's nothing wrong with you. It's just I think that your core is like shutting down. Like, have you been sleeping? What have you been doing? I said, I've been just running like 10-hour days, or maybe sometimes 12-hour days, just practicing and playing, playing, and rehearsals and everything, and doing everything, saying yes to everything. Then he was like, okay, you need to take a break. Here are some painkillers. And that's all. Like, just he gave me painkillers, and he said, okay, just take a week or 2 weeks off. And then I was like, how can I? Then I was like, oh, okay, I cannot. Then I had to just call everyone and say, I'm so sorry, I can't do this gig. Some people were upset, some people understood, but that was a point where my body just shut me down. And I had to take a break from physically playing. But I mean, the music is always there, all the songs that you learn, and it's always just there. But I think later on in my life, when I was a bit more settled, that's when I started to move away from the music more easily and readily. And it wasn't because I was burnt out or anything. I was like, oh, okay, let's do this now. You know, COVID, let's learn how to cook.
I was not expecting that.
And then the whole hyperfixation in music went into learning how to cook. And I just cook every day. I want to cook. I want to buy this, and order everything from NTUC. Make sure you got meat. This is the most, like, that whole period is the time where my fridge was the most well stocked. Then my mom was like, why you deliver every week? And then I was like, oh, you want to make this today? But they were enjoying the reaps of what I was learning lah. Then I'm getting married, moving into the house and all that. So that was nice. Just not even looking at music for maybe those periods in my life that were maybe 1-2 months. And that was quite healthy because I could look back and I could say, this is all the shit that I've done. But at the same time, I'm right here now. I'm happily not doing what I used to do, and I'm enjoying my life. Let's just maybe move again when the bills come knocking, you know? When the accounts are like drying up, then okay, now I have to push again. Push for a few months. Then like, okay, where is the point where I have enough to look after the household or to save up for a rainy day? And then just stop. Yeah. So I think my output has drastically reduced, but it doesn't affect me I'm like happier lah, in a sense, I guess. Even because, I mean, even though money is essential, I never really thought money was, like, I never really gave it much value. Like, I never worshipped it. I never like prioritized it until I knew that I needed it for the things that make me happy. Then I was like, okay, and I knew that I need a certain amount of it to be responsible. You know, not just for me, but for my wife, for the house, So that's how it evolved in my brain or in my person, in my being, how to like stop or like not like dive in too hard, you know, for too long. just came natural. But I think I was probably informed by that, very belatedly by that burnout.
Perhaps.
Yeah. Like
but it's also the idea of being comfortable with taking a step back, doing something else, and not be hyper fixated or even obsessed even, because I can imagine if you want to be, you can have these grand ideas of wanting to be the best or wanting to be not the best, but be really, really good at your craft. And I guess the only way to get to that level is to devote. I think the word is devotion. To really put, I don't know, 12, 14 hours, but that is all you're doing. It kind of turns into like this obsession that you kind of have to push it. You have to keep pushing like the boundary. I think of Whiplash. That's the only thing I think of. It's like that level of maniacal obsession for someone to get to this abstract level of being quote unquote good.
Yep. I think if you have that earlier on in your life, and if you have the ability, the energy levels, and just the foolhardiness to pursue that, like you should. Everybody should, like in something or a few things that they like or they love. Because when you get older, it's just things change, people fall in love, people have families, and your priorities change, and you might never get that opportunity to do that ever again. But I'm quite happy with where things are right now, because there's a nice balance. And I'm producing a lot of other music for other people, so that's even I'm still within music, but it's like a lot
it's a different role.
It's a departure from creating for myself and pushing myself so much. Now I'm just taking the back seat and helping people out, so that's pretty fun too. I'm not too far away from the music. I'm still there, but I have my space in a sense.
So back to your process of creation, we talked about the musical side. I want to talk about the songwriting or the wordier side. How has that process changed? Have you always been very fluent with your words, and you know what to write, where, like word structure, like song structure? Has it always been like that? Or has it more been like a journey of you exploring, being able to voice out these different emotions and stuff like that?
I think I've always had a way to find the words to say something that I was feeling. But I also learn a lot from all the artists around me, like locally also. Like there are a lot of great songwriters here. So listening to how they would say something that I also felt, but I never thought of saying it that way, then I would start to open my mind and like, oh yeah, okay. And then listening to different artists around the world and how they use consonants and vowels to rhyme words that don't rhyme at all on paper. And how they sound in music. That's how I started to get more and more, I would say, open to writing the lyrics the way that I wrote stuff. But I think my first album was very lyric heavy. It's very profound in a bit of an over the top way. Like there's too many words like I'm saying, and I'm touching too many topics in such a small amount of time. That I got sick of that, and I was like there's a lot of simple music that probably has like 6 words in the entire song that hits so much better than my song that has 300, So I started to like consciously dumb it down for myself, like and Hard Matter, like the album was a very great way for me to just write simple lyrics, to use the sounds, to use the flow of the words in an unorthodox way, even to myself, to write about love, to write about all these things. And that was really fun, and for me, writing words and melodies, I've learned over the years that there is a force point. That I will reach where I'm forcing myself. So I might have to write one verse, a chorus which goes through the whole song, and then I might have to write verse 2 and a bridge, and then that's my assignment. And then I sit down with the music, and then today I write verse 1, and then I write half of verse 2, then I reach some stupid words, and I'm like, what the fuck is this? Then I'm suddenly like damn like blank and everything. Then I'll even go like rhymezone.com.
What is rhymezone?
Like, what sounds like this fucking word? And then I look through the list and I was like, oh, all of it sucks. And I'm like, okay, then I know, okay, force point. Save, go away, go and cook, or go and play FIFA with friends online, or go and talk to my wife, or go and watch Netflix, or go and sleep. And then carry on with the day and carry on with the week until I feel that I can come back to the song again, and then suddenly it will come out. Yeah, so that's my songwriting process. It's quite organic. Though word finding, I would have to admit, sometimes a bit difficult in recent times because I don't use my vocab and my grammar as much as I used to in university, and like constantly writing shit.
Yep.
And submitting assignments, and then you're literally doing like English exercises on the side and finding, like, I always had this book called 1001 Words You Will Learn Today or something like that. And every day there's a different exercise and with different new like bombastic words. Yep. And then my vocab was a lot better when I was in school lah.
Yep.
So, but thank God some of it stuck.
Yeah.
So
if not, it's a steady decline.
Yeah. So there's some nuances of how to use words that I'm happy that I have to use simple or everyday words in a different context.
Yep.
And then the additional dimension is how they sound.
Yeah.
So there's a certain way that I would choose a certain word because of how it sounds versus what it means. And then find meaning through that and then continue my writing from there.
Yep.
Yeah, so like sometimes some words force themselves into my writing because of how they sound. And then I have to I have to build a whole verse around it.
You have to figure out how to put it in.
Yeah. And so that's fun. I love doing that. And so and then also breaking away from the rules and writing stupid shit, that might not grammatically make sense and everything. I think most of that happens in my raps and everything, which like there's a lot more leeway to like just anyhow, which I find really fun. But you still get the same point across, and you're like, fuck lah, language is just language. English is very limited. There's a lot of other languages that are better for different things. Yeah. But it's just how you think lah, I guess. Yeah.
Was there a track on your recent album that surprised you?
A few, I think. There was a very first ever in my life where I dreamt of a song, and then I thought in my dream, that I was playing a cover of a popular love song. Yeah. I think also because I have some level of anxiety, so I was dreaming about the song that I have to write. Okay. So it forced itself into a dream. Yeah. And I dreamt that I was playing the piano at a party, and like different friends were around. And then it's like just a one-handed thing, like it went blang 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 blang, like very like grand piano sounding. And then I was like, yeah, we all know that song, yeah. I don't know, it's just stuck in my head. I keep playing it, and then I woke up and I was like, then I heard the song again, and I was like, that's my song. This is not a fucking cover. I've never heard this song in my life. Yeah, and I was like, yes.
Wow, what a story.
Yeah, that was really cool. But that was the first and the last time that it's happened. But it just happened last year lah. So I was like, wow, this is really new. Yeah. Like, it's the first time I managed to capture audio from a dream. Yeah, which was like, because normally you remember things, you remember
you have to write it down so you forget.
Or you remember visuals very much because that's how you see, right? But to hear an original song that was created there in that moment and thinking it's not yours, and to wake up and to be like ecstatic because you're like, oh, it's mine. It's not a cover. That was false news. That was really cool. That was what I used for the title track of the album. For Heart Matter. So that whole progression on Heart Matter, if you go and listen to it, that was the song I wrote while dreaming. Yeah.
Fantastic.
Yeah. So that was really, really cool.
So I'm curious to know the idea of putting out an album, was it always I guess your goal, starting music, learning the bass? Has it always been like a goal to put out an album?
I think it was also informed by my peers around me in my band back then. Because in Singapore, like original music, when we were starting to play original music, which was like 2012 minus 5, so 2007. You
can do math too.
Yeah. Around there. Yep. Original music, it was not the mainstay in Singapore. It's cover bands, cover music, all the events, all the weddings, it's all cover music. So you got all these amazing, talented Singaporean musicians who are just playing like other people's music lah. And then so when we came along and we were playing our brand of hip hop /soul, and how people were reacting to it, even in a Singaporean context was quite surprising. So some of my bandmates who were a bit older than me, who had a bit more experience with original bands, said, "We need to do an album. We need to write. We have 3 songs now. We need to get it up to 7 or 8, and then let's go and record." And then so I was like, "Oh, okay. So this is what original musicians do." So it was inculcated in myself at that point that the end point of being an original artist is putting out music, which for me at the time was a bit different because I was doing cover music at the bars and everything at the same time, and my end point was money, right? Like support, not really support myself, but like pocket money and everything whilst in school. So it was a new thing to think about, and then it became this dream lah, where we would build up all our shows and save all the money and keep practicing to go and record. And then we actually went to record at a place in Thailand. Called Karma Sound Studios, which
Why
is in
Thailand?
Pattaya. I don't know why.
Okay.
So it's like this legendary studio that some artists recorded in, and it's really nice. The facilities are great, and it's near the sea.
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay.
So our first album, we decided let's go there, and then let's engage a producer, which turned out to be a crazy man.
Okay. Crazy good or
crazy bad?
Crazy bad. Okay.
Yeah. I think he's still lecturing in LaSalle though.
Okay.
Shall not mention names, but if you know, you know. Crazy ass guy.
Yep.
Who sort of actually really helped us to get the music ready for recording in terms of arrangement and in terms of ideas. But when he was there, he suddenly put out his like terms and wanted like his name in front of everything, like even in front of our songwriting, like it has to be his name before our names and all that. And then we were like, we are just getting scammed right now. So unfortunately, even though being in that band for like 5 to 6 years, all our great songs that we had and we recorded, we never got to release. And then the band broke up.
Yeah.
So what was my point? What was the point again? What are we talking about?
I wouldn't know your point because I can't see into your mind. I was just asking like creating an album.
The end goal. Yeah.
Was it always like a goal?
It's quite funny how I lost the point because literally the end goal was lost in that band.
So with regards to that, the music you can't release, what do you mean by you can't release?
Because he threatened to sue and everything if we went to release it independently without him, because he was there and a contract was, I don't know whether a contract was signed at the time. Someone else was managing us, and then that fellow also a bit, I don't know lah, the communication not very good.
Yep.
I think part of why the band broke up also was because he couldn't resolve it. But then anyway, this external producer guy who was like using our songs as ransom, we cut our losses and we just left lah. And then we're like, you know what? If he's gonna do this, then at least we enjoyed ourselves here, and at least we put out great music. It probably means we can do it again. Yep. But then the band broke up and never got around to it. And I think someone still has the file somewhere, but after the band broke up, we didn't really care anymore. We were like, fuck lah.
Interesting.
Release also for what, right? Like the band is no longer around.
Yep. So
oh well.
But with regards to your solo album, was it like an achievement of yours to finally put these pieces of music out in this particular format?
Yeah, I think so. As a reaction to that whole experience with the first band, I started like 5 different bands. Really, it was really like revenge bending. So I started a band called Hodge with my mates.
About that, I think I heard the Astral Journey. When it first launched. I had no idea that music like this was in Singapore. And then when I was doing my research, I found out you were in it. I was like, whoa, so cool. Yeah.
So we were writing that like furiously while all the drama was happening with this band, while it was breaking out. I was coming out because I still needed my musical thirst to be quenched, while all that, it was shit, even just being in a rehearsal room, which was like very foreign to me because like, this is the first time that the musical free-flowing side of myself was being like attacked, I thought. Like I was uncomfortable playing music in that room with the band that wanted to break up. So then I focused my energies elsewhere. I found friends from LaSalle who are like all these amazing musicians around today. And little did we know that we will all reach out at this point. But that point we were like, let's jam, let's make music. It doesn't have to be, I don't want to sing, I don't want to do anything. Let's just go on an instrumental journey and let's make compositions and everything. So that started with Touch, and then
the Astral Journey.
So So when we created that music, we also found I found Teo Chiarong and Audrey Tenke, who were the band members.
Yep.
And then from them in LaSalle, I found Near Dominatrix and other kids who are playing, who all still are now like freaking grown ass men and women who are still playing with me and all today. And then from that and jamming in the blue jazz, we found LAB, Listen and Believe, with Michaela Therese and Aya Sakine. And then at the same time on the side, I was hanging out with all the Good Times people, and then with the Beats and Beyond people and everything. And I found Lutfi Ohman, who him and me did a lot of electronic stuff together. So then also my solo stuff, I started to write as an outlet, and that's where Art Pure and all came from, because of the bullshit that was happening.
Yeah.
So these 5 different acts allowed me to sort of come out of the 6 band, but also retain the dream of recording and releasing stuff. So while we were writing that music and performing that music, essentially as a follower to how original music took its process in that band, I started to lead these bands in terms of like, we need to put out stuff, we need to blah blah blah.
Interesting.
But I mean, they all felt, and I won't say lead lah, but it's just like, it was like a, guys, like we got all this, let's keep writing and then let's record. You know, I was like, let's record. Yep. And everyone was like, yeah, and then we put out stuff lah. And so when that started to happen, 3 out of the 5 of these bands managed to put out EPs. One almost did. We put out like a SoundCloud demo, which like I think Fox and all was listening to at the time, and then we didn't know who he was back then when he was wearing his mask and everything.
Yeah.
And then lastly was my solo stuff. So I always gave, even though I was pushing for all the different bands, myself, I always neglected myself. Like, it's very same to these days. Like artistically, you would think that I probably would have put out 5 or 6 albums by now, but I've only done 2. Yeah. Because I'm always the back burner. I'm always the last person that I pay attention to. So, but yeah, it's been very, very fulfilling looking at the body of work that came out, and then all the features that I did with different people. And just seeing the stuff then that like it is quite an achievement, and it is quite nice to look back at lah. Yeah.
So okay, I have to be real. I'm quite sad that Hodge had no other stuff. It's only that one thing.
Me too.
So what I'm curious to know is, you have this body of work with different people and different bands.
Yeah.
Do you feel the need to go back and produce more music with them, or do you wait until like, oh, there's an idea, then we have that conversation? Or how does it work? Yeah.
I think for me, I feel that was me then and that was us then. So there is no point, I guess. But not that I'm close or they are closed or anything. I think if it happens in the future, if somehow someone has ideas and someone pulled each other in a room to create music again, I think we will. Like, there's no barrier lah. But at the same time, we all know that we've all moved on with our lives in different ways.
Yep.
But like for Neodom, I guess the boys and me in Neodom, we're a bit more aligned in that we are very hungry in terms of wanting to play and wanting to gig, and our times spent as Neodom rehearsing when we were younger, it was some of the best times of our lives also. I mean, and all the bands like different ways, but there's so much stupid shit will happen, and we would like rehearse overnight until 6 a.m. until we're all delirious, and then like we're fucking scolding our pedal boards, and then they're laughing at each other, and then like people forget to play something that they've been playing for like weeks, and then it's just funny lah. So those memories kind of serve, and so Intriguant is also part of Neodom. So he and his uploading thing that happens quite often, he'll always think if there's a live band spot, he always think of us first. He'll be like, yo, you all want to play or not? Then all of us will be like, within I guess half an hour, come, like, it's like very on. It was just very on. Even though we haven't played for years, we will be like, okay, come, okay, rehearse where, let's go. And then
it gets very easy to just pick back up that momentum again.
And but also is not so much that, but the momentum, but also all of us will be fucking different. Yeah, like we will play different things because life has happened.
And then time has passed.
And then someone like plays something, and all of us will be like, what? And just keep going, and then like we get new things, and then we jot down the ideas, record it, and then for our lives try to remember them and play. Because now half the time before the gig also we at the bar already. We're like, because it's fun, it's nice. It's like a reunion of sorts every gig. So it's always very nice to play like with them again.
Yep.
In terms of recording, I think don't know whether we got time lah. That's the only thing. Time and the effort.
Yep.
Yeah, because it can be quite consuming.
Yep.
Yeah.
So to build off that point with regards to playing live, you have you, your bandmates, and the audience.
Yeah.
How does the audience inform, I guess, your process?
Yeah.
And I guess your idea of performing live? Because I've seen a couple of your videos, you performing live, you are really comfortable. You seem really comfortable.
Yeah,
you're always engaging, you're always talking.
Trying, You're
always talking to the audience. So I'm curious to know, and I think in one of the interviews you mentioned that you're open to just improvising, you're open to just flowing with the music, which is also informed by the audience and I think how they react.
Yeah.
So like this showmanship, did you learn from just grinding through the performance? And how does the audience inform you playing live?
Okay, to be real, Singaporean audiences are the worst.
How so?
Because people don't react. They
furrow their brows on.
and that's about it. And then you have to tell them what to do. And that's how we all brought up, right? But at the end of the song, suddenly they show appreciation and then you're like, oh shit, y'all heard everything. And then so, I mean, over the years playing in like France, in India, in Australia, and the way the audiences get into the music is totally different. It's like from the first bar or the first 4 bars, they are in it already with you, and they're like moving, and they're like and like just being very vocal about it. And as a performer, that is ideal. That is the best because of the energy that they give you. When you're bearing your soul on stage, no matter how upbeat or complicated or loud and driving the music is, there is still a fear, like I guess singer-songwriters have it, are the most raw and open about how an artist looks like and feels on stage, because for them they are like almost totally naked, right? Like it's just guitar and like really soft strumming and their soft voices. That's actually every artist. It's just you're hidden by the projection or the raps or the loud ass drums and all that, But you still feel the same way. You still feel afraid and nervous to this day. I just never know how things are gonna go until the first note goes, and then you feel okay. You rely on the rehearsals and everything. But the audiences there being interested in you and vibing off the music, that really just sets me off like 100%. Like we fly. We always play very well to audiences that are going crazy or like really digging us for us. There was one Bay Beats that I played as Tim de Cotta, and like I've never as Six or Tim de Cotta or any of my bands would be programmed for Bay Beats because we don't do like rock music, like we just downright don't do rock music. But the programming changed one year, and then they asked, hey, do you want to play? I was like, yeah, of course, I would love to play Bay Beats. Like, fuck, just play lah.
Yep.
And we played at the Annex, and there was no stage, and we were within the crowd in a circle, and then everyone was around us, and we just played like one of the best sets of my life.
Was it requested by you?
I can't remember. No, I think it was just a format that was given to us, but we were like, yeah, this is fucking cool, let's do it. And then like, you know how the Annex faces the glass door and entrance, right?
Yep.
And then the stage was actually around here, like in the center of the whole Annex. And I told the engineers or the tech crew, I would like my back to face the door. So I faced this way.
Yeah.
And then before the performance started, everyone was there and seated and thinking that was the front.
Yeah.
And then I just started with my ass playing there. I was like, come to the front. And then everybody just got up. And then so that's helped. And then like it just changed everything.
Yep.
And then people were break dancing and running around and dancing. And more people started coming to the Annex. And that was one of the best gigs that I've played. The energy was amazing. And all my friends who were there for the performance or happened upon us playing there said like, yeah, fuck, we've never felt like you play like that before. It's crazy. Yep. Because for me, it was so easy because first of all, it was the period in which all the gigs that I played, I insisted on 0 rehearsals. Yeah, it was a point
Why?
where, because we've played my songs, at that point we were playing my songs for like years already. And then the band that I got, no matter which configuration of the Warriors that I got, they all knew the material. So I was like, okay guys, you're not gonna like this, or you're gonna be quite surprised, but no rehearsals, this is the sound check, this is the gig.
Were they all on board with it?
They were like, wow, fuck, yeah, okay. Really, yeah. It's like, yeah, just react to where I go lah, or I react to where you go lah, we just go near. Then they're like, okay, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So it was really that gig, on top of having such a great audience, the three of us that were playing also were listening to each other and just going where we went.
Yeah.
Suddenly I would sing something and they would change and they would follow me, and then suddenly like Josiah on drums would do something, and then me and Redwan on our guitars will follow him. So that was quite rock lah, in that sense lah. In that sense of the word. Yeah.
It's interesting because I think it takes a level of being very present. You can't just fall back on, I've played this so many times, and it's just like the chords and everything. You have to be present, you have to look, and you have to actually observe what the individual is doing at that particular moment. Yeah. And you build up from it.
Yeah. Like we were finding each other, and it was nice lah. It was very liberating, and it translated to the crowd, and then the crowd just got more and more into it and more hype, and it was like, wow, that's great. So audiences are very important. I think like playing in India also, playing in a foreign place, nobody knew who we were. And we were part of this ASEAN X thing lah. Then we went on stage and it was just the three of us again, just full on trio rock and roll. Same thing, big stage but no rehearsal. We just whack only. We know a couple of musical movements that if I start something, everybody will follow us through that movement, and then we reach a point that it's free again. You know? Yeah. So there are certain points in the set where we rely on memory and things, but we don't really rehearse it. If it happens, it happens. Yep. And the crowd went wild in like the first 1 minute just because of the drums. That's it. I didn't start anything like that. I was like, and I greeted them in Hindi, and then like it's in Delhi. Yep. And then everyone went crazy, and then the drums went, and then they were like running to the front, and everyone was like full on. And then once the chords and the music came in, I started singing. They were just at my will. Like, you know, they were like, anything I say, they would do. You know, put your hands up. Yep. Sing this, blah, blah, blah. Immediately respond. Immediately the love like was given back. Singapore very hard. Singapore, people are very uptight. Okay. Very hard to come out of their shells. But the easiest way is to call and response.
What's the call and response?
Like I tell you, okay, this song I need you to say ooh at this point, and I'll teach you how to do it. And then actually everybody, even though they're very stiff, they will ooh. Then I'm like, okay lah, can lah. It's enough for me lah. You know, I understand. Oh, actually, y'all do like it. You like it. You okay? Can just that you're being Singaporean about it. Then at the end of the song, I see the applause. Then it's quite loud. Then, oh, okay, yeah. Damn man, this is Singapore. It's okay. Yep. Then all of us know, so we don't expect much on stage, but we appreciate still. Yep. Yeah. So it's a bit, but it's so much easier when you see people into what you're doing. Yeah.
You mentioned this idea of energy. Yeah. I'm curious to get your definitions on it, because I mean it's so nebulous, and I believe you've seen it for yourself when you're on stage, when you're looking at how the audience reacts to you. How would you define it?
Energy is what you emanate without trying, you know. So if you're tired, like I can tell. If you are pissed off, I can tell. If you're happy, I can tell. It just shows. No matter how we all try to mask it. And I think it's the same for me. Like people can tell if I'm out of it, they will know. If I'm extremely happy, they will know. It's just the little ticks and the little small changes in your posture or your body language that will already inform people how or what state of energy that they're in. Interesting. And that really adds to any performance or any music that happens if you're an audience member. And I as a performer, I'm literally seeing everybody, you know? Yep. So I am literally at an energy buffet, sort of like looking around and seeing, okay, who is really here, who is really not here, who is in their thoughts, who is in the music, who is in the moment, who's happy just to be around, who's really interested, you know? But at the same time, I think the wonderful high that a lot of musicians say, that was great, like is the whole fact that you can control that.
Interesting.
You can change it.
Yep.
You know, you can snap people out of it and say, okay, this song, I need all of y'all to be here. And then suddenly they'll be like, oh shit.
It's not just a passive experience,
yeah,
right?
Yeah. You can guide and you can inform and you can give context like any other artwork, sort of, you know? And you can relate from yourself. And then the best way to relate with anyone is just to be yourself on stage. And that's scary.
That sounds scary. Yeah.
You know, you really have to be okay with all the bullshit that's happened in life, and you have to be okay with speaking about it or relating it or translating it to someone. And then there are also points where being on stage has made me realize, okay, maybe I'm not so over this, or I haven't dealt with this, or I haven't paid attention to this side of myself, because now I'm bearing my soul and it's still there, you know, and then immediately go back and
it still stings lah.
Then I go and try and settle it, and it helps lah. So energy is something we can mask, but we cannot really get rid of. Yeah.
It sounds absolutely mortifying.
It is. So when you get out on stage, you better be comfortable with everything, and especially with who you are. I think because the more that you're not, the more disparity that you build between your stage persona and your real life. Like that can lead to a lot of things. You're not strong enough, or if you're not supported enough, like it can really do you in, man. It
sounds like it could be like a breaking point for like any young musician, like the first live performance in front of people, and not just in the studio, not just at their own bedroom, but when they actually go up on stage. I guess it kind of does inform what kind of persona, what kind of individual or what kind of musician you are on the stage and you're performing.
Correct. Yeah, it really does. So, I mean, learning to deal with energies is like learning to deal with ego. Like you have to know that it flows, it changes. It's nothing that permanent, but you can sort of learn to live with it. You can learn to manipulate your energy levels. You can learn to distract your ego. You know, it's the same thing. Yeah, it's just that there are certain, like for me, I do have quite a battle with insomnia sometimes, you know, so then I need to play my energy cards right. If I have a gig tomorrow, confirm tonight, I'm not going to get the best sleep because I'm going to be thinking about it.
Oh, no.
So I do all my obsessing and all my panicking probably the night before. That's why on stage is like a release. So I seem confident, but it's really like I've been fucking suffering the whole day.
Well, that kind of recontextualize all the performances I've seen.
But then that day I'll be like, okay, I must have my coffee. I must have a nice meal.
Ritual,
so that you really make yourself comfortable. You get yourself calm, and even though you're not very well rested, but you're full of that positive energy to push out, you know, because when you perform, you don't get it back, you know, it's really sapping. Especially for me, I'm very introverted in that sense, where I gain energy from being alone. Performing is really tiring. The next day I'll like have calf cramp or this, and it's like I didn't even do anything. What's going on with my body? It's just like reacting, you know. So I guess energy is really, I mean, people like say, it's an abstract hippie wonderful concept that, you know, it's just easily explainable by biology and who you are, but it's more than that lah. You know, it's real lah. You can't deny it.
I would like to believe that there's like a sixth sense that we haven't really touched on, we haven't really explored, that kind of just explains away these things. I mean, it's easy to just chalk it, energy is when you turn on the light. There's the physical aspect of it, but I think there's a lot of the mental, pseudo-spiritual aspect that isn't really grounded in any like hard, quote-unquote scientific fact. But I think it's more experiential and it's quite difficult to put into words as well.
It is, for sure. I mean, I wouldn't be doing music if I didn't believe that.
So in preparing for this episode and then listen to your music and then just scrolling through YouTube, I can't seem to find any music videos. But it's a lot of live performances. So is that intentional?
No, it's not. I'm just lazy as fuck.
Okay.
And I'm very awkward in front of a camera. If I know I'm being videoed, or if I know I have to act, or I know I have to do something, it's just the worst. In my experiences lah. I'm sure it's just like I just haven't bothered to find a proper concept, or I haven't found the people I'm comfortable with shooting me, blah, blah, blah. But it just always seemed like a bit too much work. And I feel like, actually I should have, like in these days, and I'm not, the last 5-10 years even, I should have something out, but I just never did. And then the closest I got to was the Warrior Sessions, which I released before COVID. Because I was like, okay, I need something now to push my live gig booking. So I got some extra cash from this whole year. Let's just, push it into this production and then let's farm it out. And then COVID.
Well, at least you know how to cook.
Exactly. Yeah. So that's probably the most produced visual of me and my music, which actually kind of does help a bit nowadays, like to push it out, or to pass it to you, or to pass it to whoever who needs to be interested, who needs to understand what I do.
Because it's a very different dimension to the actual song.
Yeah. You can understand okay, they like to do things live. They like to have different arrangements versus what they were recorded.
And there's like a monologue in front as well as someone describing and I guess talking through the process or the headspace.
Yeah. So that pushes my live band brand that way. Yeah. But in terms of music videos, I think them.
Does it interest you to want to do something like that?
I know I should.
No. Does it interest you?
No, it doesn't.
Okay. Enough. Doesn't matter. So zooming out a little bit, I want to talk about Singapore.
Yeah.
I'm curious to know, how has the local music scene, how has it changed throughout your journey?
Okay. Maybe here my ego will come back into play a little bit. But I think I really loved the whole period around 2014, 2013 to 2015, those 2 or 3 years, where not just me, but my whole cohort of musicians, like maybe plus minus 4 years above and below, we were all pushing for a lot of original works, even though we were playing nights everywhere, frantically, 4 or 5 times a week. We were still jamming original material and we were pushing things and we were trying all these things at the different gigs that we play and everything. So that really pushed a whole new talent of musician in Singapore. And then with that came not just musicianship, but songwriters as well. I think Gentle Bones was around that area. He started to write stuff. Charlie Lim was also around 2014, 2013. And they started to come a bit more into the front of things. And while all of us musicians, I would consider myself one of them also in the background. We were getting better and better, and we were sounding better and better as bands. And not just in our original stuff, but also for the stuff that we were hired to do session work for. Suddenly people would hire all these acts and they'll get a kick-ass band as well. And everyone's like, hey, Singapore got musicians like this, what the fuck? So that helped push. And then for me, I started Getai Group, which we did Getai Electronica and all these gigs that were purposely programming local acts, local original music. We purposely did that, and we didn't want any cover music, but not say don't want. Say in a set of original music, if you play a cover of an artist and influences you, by all means. But just don't play Don't Stop Believing or whatever if that is not an artist who
Ed Sheeran.
If it's obviously not an artist who inspired you, but if you did, then it's fine. Just be original and true to yourself as an artist. So we started programming those gigs for fun, and I stopped all my residencies. So I used to do maybe 3 nights a week. From 2011 to 2014. That's my main source of income. And then I weddings and corporate events and everything, and it's all cover music. And I'm singing all the way. So I had 4 good years of all these singing, and I didn't realize I was getting better. So my voice, other than the bass, it's my voice was starting to come up also. Then it reached a point where I was like, you know what, this is so soul sucking, and I've been enjoying creating the original music with touch and everything, but I just have no energy to. I don't see the end game. After the recording is done, excuse me, where do we play? What do we earn? How do we earn a living from this? So I got a bit jaded. And then I stopped all the residencies in 2014. And in 2015, in February 7th, we did our first Guitar Electronica, which was actually propelled by people who saw Hodge play at the Esplanade in January. And they became my very good friends and business partners also lah. Very, don't know how these things happen, but it just
Magic
happened.
lah.
Yeah. And then you're like, oh my God, you guys are great. After the gig in January, they're like, you guys are really, really awesome. We've never seen stuff like this in Singapore. But also because we've been in China for the last 3-4 years doing our business. Now we came back here, we're opening a restaurant in Chinatown on the rooftop. People's Park Complex is the Lepak owners lah. Those are my partners.
Okay.
Yeah, so the Guitar Group and Lepak. Lepak is a separate thing, which I didn't join them before, but Guitar Group was our thing. Then so they were like, we have this space, come and see it. There's a huge open air car park next to it. Like, just use it, you know? If you want to use it, use it. And I said, yeah, okay. Then a month later, they call again. I remember us. Do you still want to come? And I said, yes, let's go. Because that's when I just dropped everything already. And I was like, you know what? Let's do this original music thing. 100%. Let's just go. Then we did the first gig. We programmed Space Days, Hodge, of course, Good Life Project, .gif, just fresh out of Laneway, and Disco Hue. Yeah. So yeah, that was when Disco Hue also was just starting out. And then that gig, like, we didn't know anything about licenses and anything. 1,200 people turned up.
Whoa.
Yeah. We ran out of like the beer that we wanted to sell.
Yeah.
And then at the end of the day, we just like, fuck, we can't, how to keep track of tickets or anything. Fuck lah, just play. Yeah, so it's like, wow,
so it was unexpected.
Crazy. Yeah. We thought like, 200 people will come because we are marketing this thing on social media only. And then back then it was still Facebook and Facebook events and all that. And then like Coconuts picked us up, and then some other thing picked us up. And then we were like, everyone was coming to this gig. We didn't know lah.
Yeah.
Then that turnout was crazy. Then we were like, okay, yeah, then maybe took a 5-month break. I continued touring with LAB and then all the other bands and recording stuff. And then they were setting up the restaurant and everything. And I said, okay, we got some corporate interest because of that gig, you know, because I hired a videographer and everything. And then once the reel was out, I sent it to them, and then they sent blah, blah, blah. And we got the Heritage Board on board to do a second Guitar Ethnica, which was the one that was in May, that Vendetta and all performed there. Then after that, seeing how the rooftop also really helped that location. Then Mercedes came. Then this urban, don't know what event, Urbanscape, I think it's this yoga event came. And then, so then we're like, and this was like after May 2015, when I purposely quit everything at the start of that year. And I was like, fuck it, I'm just gonna like float and see where this goes. I'm just gonna push full effort, but I'm not gonna think about money. I'm just gonna push original music because I'm fucking sick of this cover scene and it's killing me musically. So I want to have at least a space for us, you know? Yeah. It's not like I want to eradicate it because it's great for its users. But then this interest started to happen. And then we got hired, and then we got contracts and everything. And then we're like, oh shit, okay, let's incorporate a company and then let's deal with this. Then from there, we went on from event after event in terms of like programming and everything for like a good 2 years. And then the Great Singapore Replay happened. So it's like fucking fast forward from working with just them, just doing fun stuff. We were like full on like contracts with like Temasek Holdings. Yeah. And we were like, I was like, oh, what is happening? Then all of us were in over our heads at that. But it was a really steep learning curve, but we managed to pull through lah. So from then on, we got like a lot of different things in order, accounts, legal and everything. And then we managed to go into events that we could handle with good budgets and then contracts and all that. So then that's actually what kind of evolved from just doing original music, which is so crazy. But it also pulled me away from the music eventually. So then right in the thick of it, the two of them and me decided to split, not because of anything. It's just like they were more focusing on F&B. And then I was tanking all the art stuff not because they were not helping, but because they will always have to defer to me in terms of how the scene works and everything. So then they were like, you know what, we can amicably disband, but we will always be here to support you, vice versa, and we continue. So then I continued. Then that's when I started Warrior Productions. So Guitar Group, I closed it 2 years is like an overlap. I just left it open in case like people wanted to associate or like look at events and they ask for quotes and everything.
Yep.
Then I'll just refer them to my other company and then continue and doing everything exactly what I did when the three of us were working in the company. So then we pushed on and COVID happened.
At least you learn how to cook.
Yeah, at least I learned how to cook. And then at least we made enough money at that point where I could also think about surviving.
Yeah.
You know, like it was tough. It was fucking tough. It's like a whole year, almost a year plus of no income.
Insane.
Like bits and pieces lah. Not like how we used to have it. And then but we saved a lot of money for a rainy day, bought a house, settled down. So I started a different phase of life in that transition as well.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then that's how that happened, the moving away from music. It was kind of forced on me, sort of. Not, I mean, rather it unfolded that way.
It unfolded
that way. Yeah. But it, then looking back, I was like, oh yeah, okay, that was kind of my break. And then I guess that's why like I put out an album last year, because like that was coming back. You know, it was like, shit, I'm touching music in a different way. Everything is self-produced. Everything. Oh, so actually during COVID also, I really honed my production skills.
Yep.
And then I started to produce and put out stuff, and people were like, who produced this? I said, I did it myself. And then that was great because I was like, oh shit, it's again like people are saying, hey, you can produce, huh?
Yeah. So you're just leveling up, basically.
Yeah. And then I got my first job to produce stuff for an artist last year, Erica's stuff. Erica, he put out an album called All We Have. Yeah. And then that's when I did my album too. And it was both like featured in some articles here and there. And I was like, okay, great. Thank God.
Yeah.
And like, you know, it's getting me somewhere else. And then this year I'm starting to produce a lot more artists as well. So it seems that my pivot is from doing events and everything outdoor. Now I'm a home production studio.
Yeah. So I'm curious to get your thoughts on this. Would you say the music scene in Singapore is vibrant? Would you use the word to describe it? Because today we have, you mentioned a lot of musicians releasing their own content, releasing their own music. Mm-hmm. We have a lot more music journalism. If someone has a gig, there's a couple of outlets that will cover it.
Yeah.
There are several platforms of like, not big events, but smaller events where people get to perform.
Yeah.
Would you use the word vibrant to describe it? Or do you feel that we are still a ways off from let's say our neighbors, of kind of like this music ecosystem and how it sustains itself? Because there's always been this thought that, you kind of have to go overseas to succeed before you come back and succeed. But what are your thoughts on that?
I feel COVID really kicked our ass in terms of stopping the progress that was being made. It really was quite bad for the Singapore music scene. In terms of vibrancy, it was there since that whole period that I was talking about, that 2012 to 2015 period where people were pushing, and then events were hiring people for original content and everything like it was a nice balance, and it got better and better and better until 2019. And then 2020 COVID hit, and literally everyone who was actively involved in the scene were like just dropping like flies, like doing Grab and Grab food,
trying to survive,
just surviving. And that really hit us, you know. It really hit the confidence. It really hit all of our egos, our hopes, our like the drive that we had before. But I must say this, like, they're all fucking hardy as fuck lah, all of us, like because they're freelancing week to week, you know. It's not even like year to year, month to month. It's like literally week to week. Like you play at this bar for 6 months, next week they tell you no, come already. Like, because you know, why? Oh, we're closing down. It's literally like that. Like, it happened to me so many times. So like, I guess the all of us who were in the scene prior to COVID and are still around, plus the ones who fell off but are slowly coming back, the vibrancy is there lah. Like, everyone is very passionate about it. Everyone believes in it, even though kena fucking dragged through the COVID mud, right?
Yeah.
But it's still believe, no? Still believe. And then people are starting to play like even more. So like the older, like the ones around my age and sons, the early 20-year-old musicians, I guess, we're all coming back, playing nights, 4 or 5 nights a week, pushing as much as we can just to get back onto that same level that was there in 2019, you know? In terms of original music and everything, I think the younger generation, and Spotify has its users, right? So like the Rising 65 and the Here 65 playlist and all that kind of stuff that happens weekly. I'm always very heartened to find all these young new artists. And then, of course, hit and miss some, but at least there's a shit ton, you know, like 100 plus new releases every week.
Yeah.
Which I feel is something that never really stopped. Yeah, and I'm very glad that has happened. Like in terms of music output and everything, Singapore, the Singapore scene doesn't fail to maintain that level lah. In terms of talent and in terms of quality music, I think there are always cycles. There's always seasons where you get a certain batch of young, great producers, musicians and everything, and then they will put out stuff and then you realize, oh, they're behind everything and all the same, like this whole cohort is very energized. So that always takes a cycle. Yeah, and I think right now, my peers who are like maybe 17 to 25, that's a crazy batch of talent that we got that's coming and just slowly starting to reveal itself.
Yep.
And these guys are all sick, man. They're like multi-instrumentalists and they're like soloists and really great players, right? Just from YouTube and all that kind of shit, you know. And then they come out and then they just do shit and then like, oh fuck, yeah, like damn good keyboardist. And, oh, actually I'm a drummer. Keyboardist is my second instrument. And you're like
it's like when you mention someone tell you can play, like he's like he can play, like he can play everything.
It's like fuck, man, these kids are fucking beasts, and it's like nice to see lah, you know. And I think like they are very smart also. So the talent level that they have, they immediately push themselves into the production world. So they know that they can be there to service all your name brands and everything. Like shout out to PK Records, for example. They are a young record collective label sort of, who produces music. And they're like, I think maybe like 5 or 6 of them, and all of them multi-talented instrumentalists. And I think they were behind Aisha Aziz's latest release. And it's great, you know. And it's like also nice and refreshing to see like big names like Aisha using this under 25 talent, which is
insane. How
it should be actually. Like music needs to be for like young people to create music. It's like old farts like me. If we are still around, it also says something about the scene. It's like, hey, where is everyone? You know. But it's nice to see that. Okay, now we don't have to see that anymore because like the whole generation of talent is next level already. Just did a couple of mentorships last year. Yeah. And then the talent that was auditioning and that actually came on for the mentorship, we're like, what the fuck, where you get your voices from? How can you write something like this when you're 16? You know, it's like, there's so much feeling. The proficiency is so high. The use of language is incredible. Yeah. And like, even if that wasn't like great, it's still okay if your talent and your voice is amazing, right? Yep. And their talent and voices are like fucking amazing. So it's like, wow, I'm quite excited. But it's hard in Singapore because you don't really have the avenues there. That's why people say go overseas. I don't think it's a direction to abandon Singapore. I think it's necessary for everyone to move out. You know, like you have to see, not just for music, you have to see what the world is like outside of Singapore. I mean, all of us, when we go on holidays and we go to Thailand or Malaysia even or Indonesia, it's like, it's different. It's totally different. Life is not so serious. And like once the plane leaves, right, your brain is empty. You know? And then once it lands, suddenly like, comes back. It's like, I was like talking to my wife about this over the years that we go traveling, and it's like, you see, you try and you see, then you let me know. Then like, it's damn different. And then she's been working in a post in Bangkok for the last 2 years or so. Yeah. She got posted there, and she's like, it's totally like, dude, Singapore has a fucking stick up our asses, man. Something is not that right. There's a lot of things right and great about Singapore, and I think we love Singapore. So I love Singapore so much. I would never turn my back on this country, but something is wrong with us, like we need to fucking relax. We just need to chill and like take a step back, stop racing, go to the bar, listen to music. It's fun, and then have a beer, get a bit rowdy, embarrass yourself. That's the main thing. Embarrass yourself. A lot of Singaporeans hate doing that.
Because we're a very image conscious society.
Yeah. It's so liberating. Yeah. Just like, I just wish that on everyone lah. And I think because of that, then you will see the vibrancy reveal itself exponentially, and then people will stop saying that you have to go outside of Singapore to gain the correct support and experiences and everything, because people have it here. And it's not that difficult. It's literally across our small borders, everyone is like that.
Malaysia.
Yeah, Malaysia, everyone is relaxed. Indonesia, everyone is relaxed. Thailand, everyone. So there's a balance, Even though people push, and then every fucking country has their CBD and their areas of fast growth or dog-eat-dog worlds, but there are different sides to every society that I think as a city-state is quite tough for us to, because we don't have anywhere else to go, So, I mean, we can't, in that sense, we can't really be blamed for it, but we need to move out to see. Yeah.
So you mentioned that we have all these talents in Singapore. Do you feel that we are progressing in the right direction with regards to nurturing these talents, or will we just start to lose them because there is no avenues, as you mentioned, or there is no way to make music a career? And initially in the episode, you said someone will have to have a full-time job and do music on the side. Like if the goal is to do music full-time, just purely music without like a full-time gig or whatever, do you foresee that possible in Singapore?
Don't mind me.
Of course, go ahead.
Without a full-time gig, meaning like if I do music professionally, fully as an independent original artist, in Singapore, very tough.
Do you foresee that to be possible in the future?
I think to argue that point, everywhere else in the world is also very tough.
Okay.
Yeah, because you have your higher incidences of megastars from America, which is a huge country with a huge population, and you get a lot of talent from there, and that controls the airwaves. Also, because how Western music is dominated and how things work from the 20s till now, right? There's a lot of different things at play, and how they built that industry. Wow, them deep, like exploiting every other market in the world, right? So that they have that infrastructure and that opportunities there, but still in comparison to the amount of artists there's always a very few that make it. So it's even worse for us, because like we are like, what? 7 million, 5 million people. I don't know.
6, I think.
6 plus, right? Around there, right? And then if you want to consider local talent, is half of that. And then from that talent pool, then there's only like the top cream of the crop that make it to megastars. And megastars in Singapore is like 30k followers on Instagram, which is like, in America is 3 million or like 300 million.
I think not even America, even like our neighbors.
Sorry. Yeah, exactly. And then there's always the exception, and there's always the 1 in a million, or the 1 in 3 million.
The 1 in 6 million.
6 million, that will always happen. And if you're that one person, then good for you. But for the entire scene, the numbers do really add up. Like, if you want to do music professionally, you have to understand what it means for you. If it means being that star that writes a banger album once a year, then no lah. Unless you're Sezairi or you're Aisha or Charlie or Gentle Bones. I mean, even they have their struggles, but that's like 4. 4 in 6 million. I don't know how many musicians there are of the 6 million.
I think you buy Toto better odds.
Exactly. So you got to really find like for me, I really understood from a certain point, like, oh shit, this is not making financial sense. And I have to pivot and do something while not killing myself. And I was very lucky to find my path in that event space and everything. So once again, there's also like your journey is very determined upon your circumstances and everything.
Yep.
But to do music professionally, you have to set your parameters as to what that means. Like, will you do corporate jingles and blah blah blah? Will you do cover music on the side, or will you do a part-time job to like finance, like my grandfather did, or like that was a full-time job? Sorry, that wasn't even part-time, but you knew that his mind was in music.
Yep.
So that has to be a conversation that you have with yourself. That what's okay for you, you know, like if you can't deny that you have the music and you want to do music, then you have to settle what responsibilities are there for yourself, or if there are other people involved, like people that you love, your loved ones, your family, your home situation, your kids even, then you have to be a bit more responsible for that, and you have to like change that definition, I feel. Like for me, it's like that. Like I have to do things sometimes I don't like to do in terms of getting money, but I just do. Because, you know, at the end of the day, you know, like, okay, it's going to free up some time and space for this, for that original project, or for blah, blah, blah. And at the same time, I'm like, you have to listen to where it's going to take you. Like, for example, for me, it's towards this production route for this year only. Like, I don't really have the luxury of settling on something and saying, this is it for the next 15 years, you know. Every year since I started working and earning from doing what I consider music professionally has always been uncertain. Every year is it looks very different. From 2015 to 2023, every year looks different. It's like, I don't know how to explain it, but the jobs will come if you rely on your talent and your drive at the same time, and you know that you put in 100% for everything, right? Like, some things will come back to you lah. And then who knows, maybe this year's failed thing might be next year's main bread and butter, you know? Yeah.
Almost supernatural.
Yeah, it is. You know, it's very, people always say this, like, my life is very spirit lit. That's what my friends also, even my mom and dad, like, yeah, you don't know, like, you somehow just find a way. And then I realized also that's like a pattern in my life. Like, I shouldn't worry so much, but I worry a lot lah.
Yeah.
You know,
it's human.
Yeah.
So, in talking about the more business and the more finance side of things, where do labels come in? And have you ever considered being signed to a label, or what does it mean to be independent even? Yeah.
I guess independent means just like paying for everything yourself.
Would you consider yourself that?
Yeah. I'm 100% independent. No choice.
No choice.
No choice. I think, okay, being signed to a label, and the whole label idea was a very sunset thing 10 years ago, you know, music industry, ever since Napster, LimeWire, Kazoo, everything. Once that disrupted everything, labels haven't operated at that level before. I think all the labels that are around today as gazillions of old money that they either maintain or they find different ways to monetize through YouTube or endorsements or like just getting all the hot talent in different parts of the world. And that is sort of like a advantage they've had out of their old lives, you know, where they can still survive in this new age. And I think they've done it well. They've managed to adapt, and I mean, but more so in recent years, like literally maybe the last 3 to 5 years, 3 years,
getting shorter and shorter.
I have to say, okay, like they have fought back to get a bit more relevance. And I think the younger generation of artists are now looking to them, and they've adopted the whole TikTok lens and everything, and they know how to monetize it, and they're actually monetizing again. So that is something that growing up in my era of being a musician in my late teens and 20s, is something that I have to relearn, because now it's like I can't put I can't think that labels are not worth anything anymore, because now they're starting to reignite, you know. So I think where labels are concerned, but the great thing about that is that being in my late 30s and looking at all my peers around me also in our same age, we are getting hired as A&R for like all these labels and everything.
What's A&R?
Like artists and research. So the people who choose who the labels would take on, or identify the key musicians or the big numbers in different regions. So like, even though I would begrudgingly say that labels are gaining more relevance, it's also heartening to see that all our people are in it now. In that sense. In terms of whether you want to, I guess if you have the numbers by happenstance or by sheer hard work or by being in the right place at the right time, looking for a label to represent you if you're younger and if you don't really know who you are as an artist, that would definitely help. Like, these people will help you organize things, help you promote, and allow you to spend your energy on just creating music.
That's a totally different business altogether, right?
Yeah,
promotion and everything.
But for myself, being independent is like, that's why I guess you don't see me having a music video, because like I just cannot, and it's just like the last thing on my mind, because I already spent like 10 grand on the album. You know, me to spend on one music video, I go for quotes and I get like 3 to 5 grand. I'm like, fuck that. I'd rather someone just take an iPhone and we play good music, and then the shitty audio you can still tell is good. It sells as much. But that was me. But I think if I were in my, like, just starting off now, I would definitely be looking to getting the attention of one of the 3 in Singapore. But there are also like smaller labels or indie labels that are always fun to be around, because that's where a lot of the talent pools are, They always transfer from all the small indie collectives to the major labels.
Like the bigger one,
Yeah, so it's nice to have that progression if you're a young artist, because then you get to jam, you get to write, you get to collab, you get to get in the same room with all these talents who are, and just do shit
and make music. Ultimately.
Yeah.
So I think one of the last tangents I have before we move on to close the conversation is I'm curious to know, you mentioned when you were young, going to Borders to dig through different records and everything. How do you feel about the increasing push towards, I guess, Spotify, Apple Music, where everything's online? You can, with 2 clicks of a button, access a huge ass catalog. Like the convenience, it has never been more convenient.
Yeah.
How do you feel? Like, do you feel like there's some things are lost? Do you feel that there is so much music that because the algorithm is constantly pushing you new music, and you might not want to listen to new music, you keep listening to your old music? I just curious to know your thoughts on that.
Good question. I think at first when Spotify came out, and then we all understood the streaming rates and everything, naturally you'll feel very exploited. I think I feel some level of exploitation still. I mean, I think it just speaks for itself how daylight robbery it is, right? But how the algorithm plays and everything, and being a user of Spotify, I don't think it's being an artist on it is great. Like, fuck that. But it's easy to share your music. I treat it like a name card. Yeah. So like, that radio link or the QR code thing. That's great to share your music, and to it's very convenient to push your stuff around, to get the bread and butter which comes from like live gigs or like those engagements. I think artists these days, myself included, we don't really rely on the streaming money and royalties much like the generations before. Like, they were like millionaires because of a platinum album. And I think now it's like, your platinum album, you get $3,000. It's like, huh? Yeah, fuck that. But with that said, using Spotify is for me and my wife, or like for me and the friends around us, also like how it puts us onto new music. That is amazing. As a consumer, it's great. It's fucking amazing. I don't think even I don't know. Okay, better not say. But anyway, Spotify, the algorithm works in such wonderful ways. The more that you like and create your own playlist, also, because I like stuff, and I create playlists for parties and everything, or like for reference material for rehearsal. Like we always have Spotify playlists. If we're doing cover gigs, we create a whole playlist and we share. And if we're doing like jazz gigs or so, we create a whole playlist and share, including my songs or whatever that we need to learn. And then the algorithm picks up on all of this. And then like my radio is like amazing. All the stupid playlists that are recommended to me are amazing. And I'm like, wow.
Yeah.
And I'm upgrading from a premium plan to a family plan. And I'm giving everybody my password. It's like, I can't deny that the way that music is being discovered these days is infinitely more than how we used to. If I had Spotify growing up or YouTube even growing up, I think my musical brain would be on overdrive, Yeah. So,
you were just exposed to a wider array of stuff.
Yeah. I had to go to the borders. I had to ask the person to unwrap the CD and put it in the player. So there's so many barriers, and then only for that much, Now it's like you sign in and
everything's for you.
Yeah, it's overload lah. But I mean, I guess this generation is used to the overload that they can find their niches and then their areas of like comfort, you know. But it's amazing. You can find we were just finding new songs every week with the same playlist even, It's like, what?
I'm curious to know, do you think I guess the rise of TikTok and I guess shorter form audio, as well as the idea of wanting it to go viral and getting success through there. And I guess with Spotify, there are different playlists where tracks can get onto it. Do you think it kind of covertly shapes the way music is produced? Like you have to you have to make it, I think the word is optimize. And sometimes music, being a creative pursuit, is not the most optimized thing. It's not like, there is a very fixed way of doing things or the most efficient way.
Actually, that's a point that I was thinking about the other day. About, and I was reading an article also about it, about how the face of young artists producing music has changed because they're all going for the algorithm and they're going for the sounds that are not them, and they're going for like the 6 to 12 or 15 second in a song that is TikTokable. And then they're trying to think of catchphrases that people will use in their everyday life to talk about some shit, like whatever, like, I don't know lah, whack. Which is like, okay, it's like, that's how you're thinking about creating music. It's very sad. It's very painful for you as an artist. And I'm not saying that that's all you're being smart about it, but being smart about doing it is making you be stupid about it. It's like, wow, it's excruciating, man. If I was an artist, like just now versus my point of like having so much material to learn from, and then if I want to put out stuff conversely to that vein of thought, and then I have to do something for the talk.
For the talk.
I don't know what you call. Can you imagine how stifling that would be? How like I just feel like all of that shit that I've learned in a day, then suddenly if I want to put out my stuff, I have to think about these memeable things and these shareable things or these 15-second audio hooks
or jingles or whatever.
Which is wow, it's quite tough lah. I mean, but then again is if you're going for that. If you are shooting for that 1 in a million shot, then this is the shit you have to do. Unfortunately, right? If you want to be that 300 million stream Singaporean, you have to do this shit lah. I don't say that lightly because it will really consume you, and if you know that that's what you want to do, then good for you. That you have to be aware that that's your path, that's your trajectory, and not like wanting to play like the best jazz or the blah blah blah. It's totally different. So, and then again, your chances are so fucking slim also. So I don't know, man. It's a lot of mixed feelings, I guess. Like how what they have, and I'm glad I'm like low key glad that I'm not having to deal with that really. That my name has been established in different ways, or my skills are beyond that era. Like I've already proved myself over the last maybe 8 years of doing like whatever I was doing professionally. That I still get hired for things, blah 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 blah. But that's just growing up in the time that I grew up lah. But now if I had to hustle in this, I would definitely have to take all this into consideration. And then I have to deal with the emotional anxiety, with the depression, maybe even that comes with it. It's like, wow, fuck, I'm so awesome, but at the same time I have to like distill myself down to a measly, superficial 15 seconds.
Yeah.
It's just like, wow, that would do shit to you, man.
Yeah.
You know, if you don't have a balance, you know,
So to tee up that point, have you listened to something recently that surprised you? Like you didn't think you would enjoy it at first, but after a couple of listens, you're like, hey, this is pretty dope.
I don't know. For me, I'm quite I stick to my musical guns quite a bit. So I only go for like the certain genres of music if I'm fine. And then the algorithm also plays to that. But I also find new music through my niece and my nephews. But for some reason, they also know that I like this certain type of music. So even if they listen to rock or EDM, then they come across some like neo soul or new jazz stuff, they throw it to me. And I'm like, who the fuck is this? So that in that way, like finding this like great music through them is quite new for me. It's like I didn't know like these cats exist, you know, like they are fucking great musicians and they're all your age, and they're like got pa, like they are like they're like 18 to 20 or so. They're like us going through school. So this is them on YouTube, blah blah blah. And I just go and like hyperfixate on them like I used to back in the day, you know, like at Borders. This is my new Borders again. Then I was like, when I caught myself doing that, I was like, wow, like okay, cool. It's not really a departure from my preferred type of music, but it's nice to see the young generation like excel with it and like how fucking beast that they are. Like
it's amazing. Yeah, it's really amazing.
Just finding them like weekly through my nieces and my nephews. That's quite nice too, lah. Yeah.
And as we wind up the conversation, I'm curious to know, you being, I guess, a patron of music, playing music, producing music. I'm just curious to know your relationship with silence.
Oh my god, my favorite thing is silence.
Okay.
And it's sometimes metaphorical lah. Like, after a gig day or a gig week or a week of production or with music, I just need to stop. You know, I just need to have some alone time. I need to not think about anything, maybe for a little while, just be in my thoughts for a while. Then I need to do something that totally shuts that voice out. So that's why I say metaphorically, like maybe I'll go on PlayStation, play FIFA.
Yeah.
I'll go on to Disney Plus, Netflix or Prime, watch some shit, you know, and then get hooked. But also like taking walks in between my meetings and like taking the bus to the other side and walking here. So that like for me, those are moments of silence where I'm not even on music, which most of the time, actually on my commutes, I am still on music and I'm listening to the stuff that I like, you know? But sometimes just shutting out music in that way of silencing it, like really, really is very important to me lah. Like I just need to know, like, I need to remind myself, not everything is about music. You know, life is about everything else. There's everyone else around you also, because like for you, music is everything, but to the next guy is nothing.
It's just a 3-minute song on the Apple
like,
Music.
It's like how something else is for me that isn't music to them. You know, it's the same. So silence is great, and just be able to do nothing is. I think I love doing nothing in general. But I've been hustling so hard that I think I'm starting to do nothing a bit more intentionally. That I'm getting used to it and being a bit
comfortable.
As they say, too comfortable. So I mean, by the start of the year and every year always evolves such like the start of every year is very busy. So right now I'm in a very busy period. I'm looking forward to do nothing again when I get a chance. But my wife and I are expecting.
Oh, congratulations.
So I think from May onwards, there will be very hard to do nothing.
Maybe not a lot of FIFA time or so.
Yeah, exactly. Or maybe while the baby feeds, I'll take all the night feeds and play FIFA. So to as a tangent to that point, what does good music sound like to you? Honest.
Honest.
Yeah. So, of course, I would have my bias in my preferred genre, in my preferred style of music, like jazz, hip hop, R&B, soul, acid jazz, and everything. But I would recognize good music as music that is very honestly made. You know, you can really, like I was saying just now about how you bear yourself on stage and people know your energy and your intentions.
Yeah.
Like with music, I think you don't even have to go far. Just listen to pop music. You know that no one's intention is really true to the artist. It's like, it's some label movement or some ghostwriter or this is, if it's the intention of the artist to put out a song that is about this, but maybe it's a bit like clickbaity in the title. You know, there's a lot of examples of a different type of intention. But for me, good music is very honest. Good music doesn't really care about playing the instruments correctly or about the production value. Like, a good song is a good song, you know. If it's shittily recorded or played like lousily, if it's a good song, it's a good song. So I don't believe that there's any like right or wrong in that area. I've heard lots of songs that are maybe sung by someone who can't conventionally sing, but they've emoted so much better than probably the best singer you've ever heard. Yeah. So I think good music is, I've learned to accept that good music over the years is what's honest.
Yeah.
Because that's what people feel immediately, you know, and they see you on stage or hear you on a recording and they can tell, wow, I feel that too. I feel like you are carrying me through the song and telling me how you feel by still being considerate about how I would feel about it.
Interesting. Yeah.
Yeah. So
it's interesting you mentioned it because it seems like it's not purely about the technicals. It's not purely about how expensive your production is or how expensive your gear is, but there's this magical quality to it that someone might just have.
Yeah.
And everything else is very shittily done, but someone might just have that magic quality and they don't even realize it.
Yeah. And that's what music is about. Like, before the industry and before all your production technicalities and everything, last time it was just people used to sing in a square, you know, or like people used to emote over the blues or like play the mandolin or like fucking just get around a tribal fire after a hunt, you know. It's like, where is the recording or the industry in that? It's just like relating to a rhythm and a beat about life. You know, and then if somebody died that day or someone got something great, you know, it's what they talked about, it's what they sang about, you know. So that has never changed for any human being, I feel. Like, all of us instinctively know how to recognize that, you know, and not just through music, I think through any kind of art. So you learn to recognize what is sincere and what is honest and raw and painful or like fully that emotion that they are going for. Yeah.
I think my last question to you is, and I believe you mentioned a little bit of it, is what is the power of music?
I think so I think we really underestimate the power of sound.
Sonics, sound.
Sonics and sound in our universe and in how we live our lives. And so with that in mind, when we as human beings can manipulate that into something melodic and something that means something to us emotionally and expressively, that is way beyond anything that we can understand. It has the power to change your mind. I think it has the power to change your whole being. It's like you can be fucking bottom of like your life, like really shit bottom, and then your favorite song comes, like something happens to you, you know, like you cry into a laugh, or there's a power of what a song can do, and what sound can do. And I feel that like, if that is what that can do for someone who is so down, like, can you imagine if everyone had like the access to the kind of music that they want to listen to, or like just to make music or to feel music? Like, it can change generations, it can change so many points in history. It has, you know. So but somehow we always underestimate it. I don't know why.
Because we can't see it.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I think so, right? Yeah, I think really that's also why we also underestimate the power of sonics and sound and its play in the universe, you know, and how it informs gravity and informs movement and everything also.
Yep.
We just don't understand enough about it at this point, I feel. That's why it's also superbly mysterious.
Yeah.
And therefore makes it even more powerful to our primate brains. Because we don't understand it. You're like,
exactly.
Wow, it must be like God.
I mean, the word of God could be music. Who knows?
Exactly.
Yeah. So before we end, is there anything else you would like to talk about?
I'd just like to thank you for this interview and to thank the Cosmic Children, right? And just for taking interest in having me here to speak about all this rubbish. And I say rubbish in a very full and meaningful way, like very affectionately, allowing me to process everything that's been going on in my life and everything. And then it's been a ride. And hopefully there's more music to come.
Yep.
Yeah. And if you haven't heard, go and listen to Heart Matter.
Yeah, I was going to ask, I was going to say, where can people find your music?
So you can find it on Spotify, Apple Music, and everywhere else digitally.
Yep.
Most of it is there. You can find my live stuff on YouTube. So give it a watch. And then if you like what you hear, just come in. I don't know, come for gigs or just message me, follow me on Instagram or TikTok. TikTok only have one rubbish TikTok and it's full of, it's a dance? No, it's just me. Go and check it out.
Okay.
It's me taking pictures of some murals in Chinatown and voicing it over with my voice. It's stupid voices. Yep. Yeah. So that my friend's like, this is your only TikTok? I can't believe this is your only fucking TikTok. I said, yeah. Why? It's quite funny, what? Yeah, so I mean, if you're doing something creative or just anything in your life that you're passionate about, just don't think that it's any less than anything else. Believe in what you're doing. If you like music, come around and it will help you make your life better, I guess, sonically. If you're going through a bad time, come and find us. We'll buy you a drink. And just look out for anything that I have a gig on the 6th of April. It's at 29 rooms at Gardens by the Bay. Yeah, I think it's done by actually my management partners, Metronome. And they are programming some local artists that are going to be performing there. And look out for a couple of albums that I'm producing with different artists, like Kim Olsen, Flourished Enemy. Erica has a new EP that's coming out soon. The other artists that I can't name yet, but they're coming too.
Yep.
So just keep following me and hopefully you like everything that you hear.
Yeah. This has been a beautiful conversation, Tim.